produced by Uganda Revenue Authority, which shows that, yes, we have advanced technologically, but we still have some gaps that we need to cover.
Yeah, but also this doesn't rule out the fact that the ink itself should be valued also.
Yes.
Something that is put on paper, it's something that should also be valued, because not everything will be digitalized.
I get that, but when it comes to data and information storage,
Yes.
I think that, anyway, both are important.
Yeah, both are
because
important.
someone can wipe out the entire system,
Yes.
and you lose all the
and
data.
remember, we
so
have
you need
people who are
ink and
tracking
data.
down systems.
Yes.
You know, we have computer wizards that are also non-seated. That is where you will realize that a number of things are going to be done. And I think that is why Ugandans at times are skeptical when it comes to issuing out correct information to government. When it comes to issue of issuing driving permits, issue of digital number plates. I thank the government that I've started seeing a number of them on government vehicles first.
Yes, I've seen some
but
as well.
Still, the normal Ugandan or Muntu Wawansi, they think government is trailing them. But it is not all about trailing them, because come to realize, if you lost your vehicle today, if it was stolen, what happens? So that is why you will appreciate. So Ugandans need to appreciate the systems that are usually brought on board, because at the end of the day, we are benefiting.
Yes, we are benefiting. And if you've just joined us, thank you so much. This is Good Morning Uganda. I'm Olive Monica, and I'm here with Jethro. Now, today, Uganda has kicked off a historical national population and housing census, where details regarding your home, details regarding your family will be taken. But this is not because government is planning something against you. Actually, it is because government is trying to audit its systems and see how far we've come as a country in as far as the education sector, in as far as the health sector, and many other sectors are concerned, infrastructure development, yes, and of course population growth, so that this data can now be used to plan for you and for me and for our families more effectively. What you see right now are enumerators at the residence of the Minister for Finance and Economic Planning, Matia Kasaija, taking his information just the same way they will be taking your information when they come to your home.
Yes, Olive, but people also need to realize and also accept that whatever situation is brought about or put on board, people need to realize that if government is counting people and it's going to help you plan probably for a better Uganda, people need to understand that they're not planning for your home.
No.
Because there is someone out there who is going to give birth tomorrow,
yes, thinking
that government will come and count again after 10 years and they will be giving you food on table. Now, that is different. So people need to realize that whatever you do, you're supposed to take care of your family. It is your responsibility. So do not indulge in things that you will not sort out, things you cannot manage because you think government is there for you.
There are no handouts. There are no handouts that are going to be given out. Actually, it takes me back to one of the conversations Sonko had with a young man in Chiseka area who said, when he asked about his expectations from this population census, he said, maybe government will give us some money. And his expectation was that he probably would get around 200,000 shillings. Yeah, but we need to clarify that no money is going to be given out, but data is going to be taken from you for the government to plan for the country as a whole. This is why it is a national census. They're counting the entire nation, not just a few people in Kampala or just a few people in Barra. No, everyone is being counted, and you should allow to be counted. Now, regarding the misconceptions that have been given by some of the opinion leaders and religious leaders in different places, like the ones in Nakasongola, Luwero, and some surrounding districts, government is not planning anything against you, and the census is not satanic.
But I think also when it comes to business planners, when it comes to agricultural production and profitability, I think in one way or another this information, that is if it can be released to the public, after realizing the total number of Ugandans that we have in a given area. For those doing marketing, the marketing strategy can easily be put in place because people are running different businesses. So you realize that when something is realized, you as a business planner, you'll be in position to understand the customers probably you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So it is not only for government, but even you, a businessman, if you're dealing within a given area with running certain business, I think in one way or another, you're to benefit out of this.
Yes, you will, because now you will have an idea of which demographics
yeah.
to target and tailor whatever goods or services that you are giving out to that demographic, so that you can now know how to make a profit in your business and, of course, keep track of your numbers and growth. Now, I have a few comments coming through from some of our viewers, and you can also actually send in some of your comments so that we can read them here and get to understand how you understand what information you've gathered regarding census and how beneficial you think it is to the country. And the first message is coming in from Chigwe Livingstone of Ndeje in Ndeje division in Lueza, and he's saying good morning and thank you for the show. And he says the so-called religious leaders who interpret census as satanic, those are cults, because even Mary and Joseph, the parents of Jesus the Christ, registered for population during their days. And he goes on to say that it's about planning. The government cannot plan out of the blue. The national development goes with statistics in terms of infrastructure and other related developments. I like his take.
Yes.
Because some people think that government just gives out money or spends without any planning. And I think we need to disabuse ourselves of the misconception that government runs without the necessary data and statistics, because you'll be surprised to know that there are some people who have that kind of belief system.
Yeah, true. And, you know, it also depends on where you grew up from and how you perceive things.
Yes.
You know, it is a challenge, but President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has always come out clearly and said he doesn't usually believe in such beliefs. If for example, someone is sick, I mean, they are sick. People who think things are a little satanic, those are things that people shouldn't really give time, but they have to believe in the one God that we all believe in, the one that we serve, to see that things can really be better. But Olive, government has got a bigger role to play when it comes to this whole process of the national census, because the issues that we are dealing with are talking matters health, education and infrastructure, which you highlighted earlier on. I realize that it's now the time, the government, to see that issues of education, for example, we've seen a number of city schools in the different districts, in the different, of course, parts of the country. You realize that we still have students who are still sitting on the floor. We still have students who are still sitting under trees. So these are some of the things that the government should highlight and see how best this can be corrected to ensure that the Ugandans can really be appreciative. When it comes to health sector, issues of medicine, people have come out clearly complaining about going to get health services, but realize that getting medicine is a problem for our mothers who are going to give birth. You find them sleeping on the floor in the different government hospitals. So I think government needs to come out after
beds in the
these are
hospital,
things need to be. You realize that if you're bedridden and there is someone who comes and is in a worse condition, they tell you, Olive, now in your condition, but at least accept and sleep on the floor. Let's have this patient now lie on the bed. I think these are things that need to be changed to ensure that Ugandans are really happy about the Ugandan system.
Well, I hear you. And Chris Mojenyi from Matuga says, if indeed we are that many, that is 40+ million people, then we need serious family planning. And I hear what Chris is saying, because given the census report of 2014, it was said that the fertility rate the total fertility rate at the time. And fertility rate here means the probability of, I beg your pardon, the fertility rate here means women in their childbearing ages of 15 to 49. It was estimated at the time to be at 7.1 children per woman in 1991 to 5.8 children in 2014. What this means, of course, there was a significant reduction from 7.1 children per woman in 1991, then to 5.8 children in 2014. But still, the population is growing. So I'm curious to know how many, what the fertility rate is as of 2024. Has it increased? Has it gone down? Because if it was 5.8 children in 2014, then what does that look like at this moment?
Well, we wait to see, Olive, because we are always covering stories of that nature. Districts like Uganda, Jinja districts, districts that are in the eastern, Kumi, Soroti, Anebi, such districts, they're still suffering with a number of young children who are really getting pregnant at an early age. And I think family planning is very key, but it doesn't stop on family planning, but also parents are doing a very, very good initiative to see that they sensitize their children, because parents of late are really not doing a good role when it comes to sensitizing their children and teaching them, educating them on the disadvantages of getting into early marriages. If we have parents who are actually promoting the issue of early marriages simply because they want to receive dowry, but of course hiding in the issue of poverty, because they think because they don't have money, and if a man comes for their daughter, they believe they will get something out of it. I think this needs to stop, to ensure that also government should also come now on board, because there is a basis to see how probably such penalties can easily put up to ensure that young children do not get pregnant at an early age. But also those who are getting pregnant, they should also put into consideration the issue of family planning. Olive, you realized people who have lost their loved ones, for example, if you lost a husband today and you have 8 children, you come out and say, "Wane government to Yambe, I have 8 children, I cannot feed them." You have the landlord is wanting money, asking money for rent. So these things need to stop. So it is high time Ugandans also check themselves out to ensure that they put on table what they can consume.
Yeah, and speaking of child marriages, it is said that 34% of girls in Uganda are married before their 18th birthday, and 7% are married before the age of 15. That is worrying. And of course, 6% of boys are married before their 18th birthday, but now comparing that to 34% of girls.
That is a very big gap.
That is a very big gap.
Yeah, it is very big. And that is why I said government has a role to play. But before government comes to intervene, what have you done, you as a parent?
Exactly.
Because I believe we are seeing young children here on the streets begging. The question is, a child who is actually 8 years or 9, what are they doing on the streets?
Where are their parents?
And these are young children you find walking in the night. Before you know it, they are kidnapped. Before you know it, they are raped.
Molested.
So that is why we still...
Education, economic opportunities, and health services, particularly for girls, alongside severe poverty.
But what is bringing...
And a weak legal system.
Oh, God. Yeah, of course, legal system being an issue, but the issue of education, Olive, the government has put up a number of UPE schools. We have youth schools also. The government, the President himself has clearly said, please do not charge parents in government schools. But parents are also accepting to be charged. So it seems they're also okay with it.
There is a whole conversation regarding that, though.
Yes.
The principals of these schools are saying that in as much as the education is free, we need a little bit of contribution from the parents to enable us to run the school smoothly. And they say that in as much as government probably gives us food, it is not enough. But so if the parent is asked to add a little bit of money so that the school can now use this money to buy food. The food is feeding your children. And if the school is asking for an extra 20,000, is that too much to ask?
Let me tell you something, Olive. There is something that probably you may not have realized or thought about. Most of the government schools way back were day schools.
Yes.
So the assumption was or is children are supposed to leave home at least with a package. As a parent, you're supposed to pack for your child something to eat as they're going to school. You understand? But today, the head teachers that are put in certain government institutions are now looking at how they can easily get some money for themselves also, of course, at an advantage of serving Ugandans and educating people. So however much there is a discussion, where did it start from? If government started by giving in some money to ensure that something can be done, that is the little they could offer.
But Jethro.
It gets back to the government.
Okay.
It gets back to the government. It is not my fault or the head teacher's fault. So if the government realizes nothing should be solicited from the parents, then it should add in the little they give to these institutions.
You just said earlier the government doesn't have enough money.
No, but I told you government has money, by the way. It is you who told me, because it is planning for 40 million people and plus, it can't easily just put up.
Yes.
So education is key, health sector is key, and infrastructure.
I understand. And on some of the government schools becoming boarding schools, there is also, I like that you've mentioned infrastructure. It's important because some of the schools, in as much as they exist, they are in hard to reach areas.
Yeah.
And children have to traverse miles and miles to get to the schools. So if a boarding section is created to enable them to be able to get to school early, in class early, be able to concentrate, it is also important. So it is just that we are living in hard times.
Yeah, hard time, but also our system of education, Olive. You see, as the economy is growing, as things are changing in our country, a number of things need to be revised. If your child is picked from home at 5:30 in a school bus, and they are going to school.
Those are private schools.
Even some government schools.
Yes, but
even
majority private schools.
Yes, but where does this leave the nation if the private sector is contributing the biggest percentage to our economy?
And to the education sector. Majority of Uganda's schools are privately owned, especially in primary. Actually, all kindergartens are privately owned.
Yeah, but to get back to, of course, to the entire thing, it matters to be counted. It matters to be counted.
Yes, it does.
You see, Olive, negativity in a number of things that we deal with should stop. However, it doesn't remove the fact that things may not go as planned. We should rule out the fact that because you promised and you didn't fulfill, it won't happen this time. We need to give government a chance. It is from that that we shall appreciate what is done by government. But also, we need to appreciate and give credit where necessary. Now, that is something Ugandans do not want to associate with.
Well, currently, the Finance Minister, Matia Kasaija, in Mengo at his residence is taking part in this year's national population and housing census. Our team is at his residence as enumerators take information from the minister regarding his family and himself, and the same will be for you. I believe that by now some of you have already had your doors knocked at by the enumerators trying to get your information so that it can be put in the national database so that we know how many Ugandans are in the country and of course other aspects of being Ugandans, and we'll delve into some of the takeaways from 2014, that is the status report of the census 2014. But for now, I have a few more views coming in from you, and please keep this coming in. The WhatsApp number is 0709-602-592. You can also share your views on our X app, and of course the hashtag is UBCGMU. And you can also send a direct text message on this number, still 0709-602-592. We will be able to get your views regarding your your understanding of the National Population and Housing Census 2024, your key takeaways. If you have any experiences to share from the last one of 2014 or 2002 or 1991, please be our guest and share those. Would love to hear what your take is regarding the same. Now, someone from Bududa, please, when you send in your messages, kindly add your names. Would like to know who our viewer is. And this person from Bududa says, yes, it is good to be counted as the people of Bududa district, but we don't see the value because since last counting, we have not seen good development government is doing in Bududa district. That is a view from one of you. And thank you so much for sharing that information. Now, when someone says we have not seen any development, could it be that there hasn't been any development, or could it be that there hasn't been development to their expectation? You see, an area may have, let's say, a problem. Let's say Bududa had problems of landslides. Mudslides, yes. And the government put money out, released money so that the people could be relocated.
Yes.
That is a development, right?
Yeah, true.
And some other places you'll find that probably it was infrastructure in terms of roads.
Yes.
And some of the roads have been worked on. But others may visit Kampala and want Bududa to change to be like Kampala in a period of 10 years. So for you, when you hear someone says there hasn't been any development in this region, do you think they are right on the money, or probably they are underestimating the contribution of the government in that area?
Yesterday, I was on a border at about 11:30 p.m. Now, I had a conversation with the border guy. Of course, he brought me all the way from Mengo, but of course, I was coming here in the night. And we were going through the potholes from Mengo, you know. A number of constructions are being made within the city, and works are still going on. We need to appreciate. But he made a statement, and he said, such potholes were never there during Jennifer Musisi's time. That was his view.
The border rider.
The border rider. So I was like, okay. But the question is, where are the potholes coming from? Because even roads that are being worked on, for example, Naguru, just of recent, we are seeing potholes. So if someone in Bududa is coming out clearly to say that probably government has not done enough, or they are not seeing changes, maybe it is not to their expectation that they are noticing some changes here and there. But it goes back to the government, because in a pool where government is supposed to put like a pail of water, and it puts a jug of water. Now that is the challenge.
It's like a drop in the ocean.
A drop in the ocean. Because the budget is being made. Resource allocation is being done. The members of parliament are sitting to see how best they can prioritize different government entities.
Yes.
If money is given to security, and we still have a few loopholes, where is the challenge? Because Ugandans are saying, but security is given money. That is one. Two, if we are still crying of the education sector,
yes,
and the Ministry of Education proposes a budget, when it reaches the parliament, it is cut. Before you know it, there is a supplementary. Now, where are we going?
A supplementary for what?
That is the question.
Yes.
You get it? Now, I think that is why Ugandans will and are still complaining. That is why I earlier said, our leaders need to discover what is itching Ugandans. And what is itching Ugandans are the three things that we are still talking about: the infrastructure, health system, and the education system.
Where are our priorities as a country? Because if you're going to slash the health budget, the education budget, where is this money being put to use?
You see, now those are things that we demand as Ugandans. Because if a supplementary is made and money is allocated, we are told 34.8 billion has been given to education system. Before you know it, you cover a story tomorrow, things are working out otherwise. Now, that is a challenge. Let me tell you another story. Still, you see these border guys have a number of stories. So another border tells me, the challenge we have, they pray so hard that President Museveni at times passes certain routes to discover the challenges there. Because the ministers, the MPs, few of them use such roads that are in poor state. That is why we said the national census probably counts for people living in Upper Kololo, Nakasero side, this upper section where UBC is. But Omuntu wa wansi, the lady that Sonko interviewed clearly told you, all she wants to know, the total number of Ugandans. And that is all. And not to go to prison. And not to go to prison. But is that enough? There is a missing link that needs to be sorted out.
Key questions being put across by Jethro, and I believe that they also represent the questions that many Ugandans have towards the government. Now, it's one thing to tell people to get counted, it's another for them to get the benefits from their data being taken and being put to proper use as far as development is concerned in different parts of the country. Now, looking at the census report of 2014, we shared about the birth rate, but also let's now look at the infant mortality rate, which is the probability of a child dying from birth to their first birthday. And it was estimated at 53 deaths per 1,000 live births in 2014, which was an improvement from 87 deaths per 1,000 live births in 2002. So we wait to see what that is looking like as of 2024. And also the under 5 mortality rate, which is the probability of a child or a newborn child dying from birth to below or before their 5th birthday. And this was estimated at 80 deaths per 1,000 live births in 2014. And that was an improvement from 156 deaths per 1,000 live births in 2002. So if you ask me, when it comes to the health sector and maternal mortality rate, infant mortality rate, under 5 mortality rate, I think there has been great improvement, great strides taken in this realm.
Yes, a lot has been done, Olive. Yesterday but one, I went to a certain hospital, which I will not mention. But the laxity in these health officers is too much. Now, I have a mother. This is a true story. And what I'm talking of is yesterday and yesterday but one. I went to a certain hospital. My mother was taken there in the morning at 10 a.m. I was told 10 a.m. So, reaching there, they called me at 5:30 p.m.
Yes.
A number of tests were made. Nothing was discovered. They tell us probably there is a heart clot, but making that test takes ages. Let me tell you something. We nearly fought those nurses and doctors because
to give you the results.
To give us the results. So the level at which people conduct themselves when they are serving Ugandans, at times it is not good. Now we are talking health sector, you know, because if government is investing a lot of money in these people, these are the very people who came out clearly and said, we need salary increment. We are scientists. Now government says, okay, we are going to add you money.
And they did give them the money.
However, in stages. But we need to appreciate. Now, me who brings a patient and I do not get the services that I need, it is a challenge. So talking about the mortality rate, the infertility rate, and so on, yes, it has dropped. People are doing something. But also people who are dying because of the negligence of these
that are giving the service.
It's too much. So that is why, still I go back to the point of government going back to check on these people.
That's true. Keep them in check.
Do you remember when Minister Sarah Opendi was still the Minister for Health?
Yes.
When she covered herself like a Muslim and she went, is it Kawempe, around there? Kawempe Hospital. And the nurse asked for the bribe. It was at a later stage she discovered she's a Minister for Health. And that nurse was arrested. Should we really get to that level?
So there is a bit of laxity when it comes to supervision. On this program, we actually shared that some of the medical personnel in government institutions appear for work like 8 times in a month. Okay?
And those are very many.
And government is paying them now. They
Highly.
cannot use the excuse that we are underpaid.
Yes.
They wanted increment in salaries and government gave them that. So it is an attitude problem to a degree, but also supervision is wanting in some of these facilities. Now we'll share some more news, and the board chairman, Uganda Bureau of Statistics, Dr. Albert Byamgisha, has allayed all fears on privacy and asked all Ugandans to cooperate and provide true information during the census exercise. Dr. Byamgisha also demystified all fears on double counting, noting that the enumerators were thoroughly trained and the technology used automatically eliminates errors. Let's watch the story.
The National Population and Housing Census in Uganda is conducted every 10 years with the primary objective of acquiring essential information on population distribution and other social and economic characteristics. Friday 10th, 2024 has been gazetted as a public holiday to kickstart the Uganda National Population and Housing Census.
That night, where you sleep is where you will be counted.
Thursday 9th, 2024 will be Census Night, a benchmark night or reference point where most of the questions asked by census enumerators will be drawn from what transpired in one's household that night. The chairman of the Board of Directors, Uganda National Bureau of Statistics, Dr. Albert Byamgisha, has clarified the mix-up about the Census Night.
Meaning that we shall count all the persons who will have slept in Uganda, the territories of Uganda, on the 9th, on the night of 9th.
Dr. Byamgisha has urged all Ugandans to cooperate and provide correct information to the enumerators.
So people must be rest assured that the data collected will be confidential, and therefore we call up all upon the personalities who will be in Uganda, who will have slept in Uganda on the 9th, to give the correct information.
With assurance of confidentiality, Dr. Byamgisha has urged men not to hide information, especially about the children they have outside their official marriage.
For example, if a man, as you are saying, has 3 wives, and on the night of 9th, he sleeps with wife A, he will be found there and counted there as the head of the household. Now, while wife B, who lives in another place, will also be counted. So the wife in the household B must give correct information, who produced the children, or I'm cohabiting with so and so, and we have produced so many children. We have this child here, this one here, the other one there, all of them are his children. But he is not here with us.
The expected 10-day exercise will be conducted by highly trained personnel. Dr. Byamgisha says the technology used is automated to eliminate double counting. The National Population and Housing Census exercise caters for all people irrespective of status, belief, or physical appearance. Dr. Byamgisha has warned all caregivers of persons with a disability against hiding their children, and also warned those who undermine the exercise because of their beliefs.
The actual families should not hide children who are disabled. It should take pride. They should take advantage of this census. The other one of Khalid saying that when you are counted, You will die or do whatever, it will not work. It has never happened. We need to avoid that one.
The provisional results for the National Population and Housing Census exercise are expected to be announced within 2 months after the enumeration exercise. The last National Population and Housing Census exercise that was carried out in 2014 indicated that Uganda had a total population of 34.6 million people, slightly lower than the earlier projected provisional results of 34.9 million. Susan Nawonga reporting for EBC TV.
Well, the census does not segregate. Every person from every region within Uganda's borders will be counted. Now, Raymond in Mbale was asking if people in the diaspora are also being planned for as far as the census is concerned. The census is counting people that are currently or that were in Uganda last night on census night, and of course within the next 10 days, that is from today up to the 19th of May. All of those will be counted. But as far as Ugandans in the diaspora are concerned, I believe that that number is also considered as under Ugandans in the diaspora. And of course, they give so much revenue to the country in terms of foreign currency. And yes, the government knows they exist and they plan for them. Their contribution to the country is not really lost on the government.
Yeah,
I think.
True. Being in the diaspora doesn't mean you're not a Ugandan.
That's true.
Because at the end of the day, you return probably to invest in Uganda, which we usually advocate for. So that is very important. But it also comes out with the people that you left home. If people that you left home realize that you're also part of them and they leave you out. But also that takes us back to what we talked of estimation. Because if they reach home and they tell them, no, Jethro is abroad, but he'll return every after a year, I believe I will be put into consideration when it comes to the counting. But also remember when the Minister of Internal Affairs came out clear and said if your passport gets expired from abroad,
Gets lost.
renewing is supposed to be done in Uganda.
No, I think it was on losing the passport.
On losing the passport.
Yes.
Yes, but still that makes you a Ugandan.
Yes.
So that shows that you're part of Uganda. You were Ugandan. So at the end of the day, I think those in the diaspora are also counted.
Well, the conversation regarding the 2024 National Population and Housing Census still continues here on Good Morning Uganda. Jerome Paul Sonko is in the field and we will be joining him shortly to give us some of your views live in your areas where he will find you. So if you happen to come across Jerome Paul, you should allow yourself to be interviewed so that we get your views regarding the census. What do you know? What benefit is the census to Ugandans? Do you think it is important or it is a wastage of time? Do you think government is putting the money where it is necessary to be put, or you think, in your personal opinion, this money could be used for something else? But regardless, the census is important and it happens in every interval of 10 years. We had the last one in we had the last one in 2014. So Jethro.
But what people also have to realize, Olive, if something is done, people need to realize that at times things are done for the good cause. If something is not of help today...
Jethro, a minute.
Yes.
Sonko is coming live to us from Mengo, where he is at the residence of the Minister for Finance and Economic Planning, Matia Kasaija. Sonko, what is the situation like at the Minister's residence?
Well, good morning once again, Monica, and good morning to all our dear viewers watching UBC right now. And like you've mentioned, we are live at the residency of the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Matia Kasaija. And the situation as of now, I want to believe is one of the first Ugandans in 2024 to be counted in the population census here at his residence. And what we are going to to know about it is we really just want to know how it has been, how the exercise has been. And I also have two of the enumerators who have done the exercise. So we shall be engaging with them in the next few minutes as possible here, because the weather does look a little bit funny. It is changing, but we're going to do this real quick so that the Ugandan who is watching can also experience what has been happening here at the residency of the Honourable. A very good morning, Honourable. You are live on UBC.
Good morning, fellow Ugandans. I urge everybody to get counted. Why? Because as a government, we do not know what type of people are living in the country, how are they living, how are they surviving. It will become very difficult to plan. But if we get those statistics, then they give us the way on how to plan to make Uganda a great country, and the people of Uganda healthier and even having a lot of money in their pockets.
All right. And Honourable, what has been your experience? The fact that I've mentioned you're among the first Ugandans who have been counted this year, by the way. So how has been the experience during the answering of these questions and the interviews with the enumerators?
Well, they have asked the questions, very good questions. Some do not relate to me, but many of them were relating to me. I've given them all the information that they wanted to take, and that's why I'm urging everybody who is going to be counted, give facts. Don't give things that where you don't know, you say no, but don't give a lie. If you don't tell a lie, give the facts as you know them, because as I said, this exercise is not just to do maridadi. No. This exercise is very serious, is very fundamental in planning for the economy of this country.
And Honourable, just in the morning as we're doing a downtown check-up on the Ugandans out there, we went to realize that some of the Ugandans think after the entire process is done, they expect some money. One of the people we talked to, I think I've shared with you when we just reached here, is that one was expecting 200,000 at the end of the exercise.
No. We are not rewarding you because you are giving us information to reward you later as a country. So I don't think we budgeted that we shall pay every interviewer. Where would that money come from? Okay. We are about to 40 million people now in Uganda. Where do you get that money? No. What I'm saying, as a citizen or a resident in Uganda, give information as requested for in a manner that actually that you know. Don't tell lies. As I said, I repeat this. Money will come later on when we have planned properly and we are running the country and producing the money. Okay.
And lastly, Honourable, last year we were expecting the census. It was then postponed to this year due to lack of enough finances as a country. So when it comes to the planning for this year's census, how has it been, and what has the ministry done to ensure that we have the census this May?
Yes, that's true. The other year we postponed it because of certain things that we are not in place. But now we put money in the budget. I have not heard the WUBOS complaining. So we expect that everybody who is involved in the exercise, particularly the numerators, those numerators will be given some little money, for all I know. But not you, the one who is being interviewed, no.
All right. Thank you very much, Honourable. You've been live on UBC. Now, just lastly, as we're summing up with this interview, let me get to interview one of the enumerators who has been holding the exercise here. We only need to know how many questions are being asked. Reports have been 180 questions. Were those the exact questions that were asked here? A very good morning, ma'am. You're live on UBC.
Good morning, our viewers, our listeners. Yes, the census questionnaire has a total of 180 questions. But you as the press, you were here. Although we keep the confidentiality, not all questions were asked to the Honourable Minister. Yes. So some questions can be asked to some people, depending on the age. There were so many questions on children regarding their education, regarding their immunization. And if a household doesn't have those people living there, so those questions will not be asked. Information on reproductive health, how many children a woman has had, and other reproductive health issues like current pregnancy status, and then also deaths in the household. So if these things, these occurrences haven't happened to the household, or there are no females in the household, then you skip these questions. Information on household and housing information, and when we talk about the structure of the dwelling, the materials used to construct the dwelling, the floor, the roof, the walls, the energy used for cooking, for lighting, all these are through personal observation, and you don't need to ask. So you relieve the respondents some of those questions. So basically, nobody can be subjected to 180 questions. It's not there.
Okay. And how have you found the process so far? How have you found the exercise?
Yes, the exercise we began this morning, our journey. We are here. This is our minister for the Bureau of Statistics. It has been a smooth journey. I'm here with Liz. She's the person in charge, the representative of the Census Commission in Rubaga. Okay. Yes, Rubaga Division. So we are here, but the journey has begun. The day is good, and we hope it will be a smooth exercise.
Then again, lastly, is there any evidence or anything you leave after you've counted someone that shows that this person has already been counted?
Yes, I think it is preferably she will talk about it, what she's supposed to do, and also you will see we provide enumerators with chalk. They are supposed to give their initials and the structure of the household. Unfortunately, in this area, it's going to be the first, and then we stroke it. We end with an E to indicate that it has been enumerated. Yes.
And of course, thank you very much. And to all the Ugandans out there, you get to realize that this is an exercise that has officially kicked off today on the 10th of May, and you are supposed to be part of this wherever you are. And to Monica and Jethro in studio, you get to realize that the minister has not been asked all the 180 questions, just like we've been told. The reason behind it is because there are so many questions, and some of the questions do not really or directly impact to him, or the better word to use, directly have any relevance to his side. So that's why they have limited some of those questions. But let me also get to ask more details from one of the supervisors as well, so that we can get another understanding of what is happening here at the minister's residence. Good morning, ma'am. You're live on UBC.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers. Good morning. Thank you for this.
Okay. Well, what is your name, and what is your duty in this census this year?
Elizabeth Nasubga. I am in charge of census activities in Rubaga Division.
Okay. Looking at the exercise, I've been asking the other side that what would show that someone has been interviewed or someone has already done the exercise so that they are not recounted?
We are going to ask the Honourable Minister that we label the household so that we mark the household. Anyone who will pass will know that this household has been enumerated.
Okay. Then what message would you give to the other people that are waiting for the enumerators to come on their side?
To stay home and to welcome the enumerators and answer the questions, to give us time to answer the questions. There are less than 180 questions.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. And now I'm going to take you back to studio with Jethro and Monica, as for us, we shall be continuing to do the trace down here in Kampala to see how the exercise is going here for the Population Census 2024. Do make sure to stay tuned to UBC TV, your national broadcaster, because in our developing bulletins from 1 p.m., 6 p.m., 8 p.m. and of course the 10 p.m. and 7 p.m. If I am to remind you, we shall be giving you details of how the entire exercise has been taking place. From the 10th of May to the 19th of May, we have the Population Census 2024. So be part of the exercise, participate, and make sure you give accurate information, because at the end of the day, if we're asking for accountability, it is always important for us to also play our part in ensuring that the government knows who we are, where we stay, and of course, all of those details that will be asked. I'm Joram Paul Sonko, back to studio.
Well, thank you so much, Joram Paul. And he's been at the residence of the Minister of Finance, Economic Planning, that is Matia Kasaija. He has been counted, his details have been taken, and it's important to note that not all the 180 questions that have been prepared were relevant to the minister. So he didn't answer all 180 questions. And like we shared earlier, we said that not all questions are going to be relevant to you. Some will be relevant to you, others will not. Also, some questions are relevant in terms of how big your family is. Now, if you are one, then of course there are questions you're not going to answer, which also brings me to a question one of our viewers has posed to me, asking me about Jethro, wondering if he is single or double. Jethro, when they come to count you, will you be single or double?
Thank you so much, Olive. I'm not single. I am double.
You're double.
I was taking a longer time.
Okay.
Yes, but we need to appreciate Olive. Because talking about what our comrade Sonko has been, the engagement they had with the minister and also the enumerators, Ugandans need to realize that about 321 billion was invested in this census.
Yes.
We must have value for our money. Why am I telling you this? You must accept to be counted. A lot has been put in for you, the Ugandan. There is nothing for free. If all this has been invested, but also we must pause, reflect, and celebrate, because government has invested a lot in the Ugandan population. However, when the minister, Matia Kasaija, clearly said that they do not know the kinds of Ugandans they're dealing with. Ooh, that is challenging.
Isn't that the whole point, though?
Yeah.
To understand and get to know the kind of Ugandans they're dealing with?
Actually, now that also takes me back to the 10 years.
Okay.
Now, are the 10 years given to recount? Is it too much?
No, it's not.
Well, okay, that's fine. Because a lot happens within the 10 years.
That's true, and that's why they don't know the quality or kind of Ugandans they're
But now
dealing
the
with.
question is, Olive, a lot has been invested.
Yes.
That is why I'm saying we need to pause, to reflect and celebrate. But what are we reflecting on? The billions of money that have been invested in Ugandans, that's a lot. Now, does that mean a lot probably has been, I'll not use the word wasted. Because
what I hear is when someone says no offense, but
yes, because
the offense is already there.
Yes, these are our leaders.
Yes.
I believe we should have a system, it is my opinion, we should have a system to update. That is why, for example, in this corporation of ours, UBC, at whatever level you reach on, for example, if I get to a master's degree, I move to the HR's office, I update my file. So they realize that they are no longer dealing with a Jethro of 1 degree or 2 degrees. Now this man has masters, or he has a PhD. So I think in the space of 10 years, something needs to be revised or something needs to be thought about. An update needs to be done, Olive, at a later stage.
After the 10 years or within the 10
Within
years?
the 10 years.
And I believe Uganda Bureau of Statistics does different surveys. Because, okay, now here we have the national population and housing census, okay?
Yes.
But we also know that, for instance, the AIDS Commission will have a certain survey
Yes.
regarding that.
But the question is, Olive, a minute. Yes, UBOS is doing their job. The AIDS Commission, like you're saying, they're doing their job. But do they reach down to Omuntu Wawansi? Because remember these, the officers from UBOS, they came here to UBC, you remember. A lot of questions were asked. How do you work, the working conditions, the relationship, do you get leave, do you get what? All those things were asked. But the question is, do they reach on that last man who is in Chiseka, down there? You've realized someone left Nansana to come and he's making chapatis. Very early in the morning, by 5 he was on the road.
So the big question here is, what time does the enumeration begin?
Now, that is what I'm talking
Because
about.
if he left his workplace overboard at 5 in the morning,
Yes.
and the enumeration is probably starting at 7, then he will most definitely be counted from his place
That
of
is why
work.
I'm saying, Olive, the fact that we are now running in a digital era, we need something in between the space of 10 years. Given the fact that the different institutions and organizations are also doing a number of surveys, but I'm not sure if the update that is made on me as an individual, or it is a general overview. So this will help government in one way or another also to enhance on its planning. That is why I think now our honorable members of parliament also need to be tasked, you understand, for each level, the LOCs, the LC5s in the given districts and villages, they need to be tasked at a given period of time, because migration is done, people are dying. Today they are counting you, tomorrow someone is dying. That one you are aware.
Even at the minute you're being counted someone.
So how will all this data be captured? So that is why I'm saying, in the space of 10 years, we appreciate what is done, but probably we need a mechanism in between the given period of time to see that updates can usually be made to get these efficient services from government.
Okay. And more on the views coming through, you can still send in your views on WhatsApp number 0709 602592. You can also use that number to send a direct message, or you can send or comment on this conversation on our X app profile, and the hashtag is UBCGMU. Now, Kevin from Buyaka, Togo says, I think that the population census is not beneficial because last population census, there is no changes, so it's not beneficial. That is Kevin from Mbuya's opinion. Now, this a question here for us, you and I, Jethro.
Yes.
Good morning. If you are working far away from your home, how will you be counted? You will be counted from where you are working. And the Uganda Bureau of Statistics has also clarified that there won't be double counting because the system they are using is good enough to note that this person has been counted already. And the floating population, that is people that are working in the night, driving buses, street children, when they are counted, they will be given a special card that enumerators will see and not recount them. So don't you worry, wherever you are, they are going to reach you and you will be counted. Now, still more views coming through, and this is from Phillips from Karamoja, and he says, I have a fear that some places in Uganda may have the census not properly done. Why? He explains and says, in the advert, UBOS said the people to be recruited as enumerators should be locals of that region, or people who understand the local language and the place very well. But how can a person from Bududa, that is in the Bugesu region, be deployed as enumerator in Tapak, a sub-county in Moroto, when he or she doesn't know the local language? The questionnaire is in English and has to be translated to the local language. I think he's asking the same question you were asking
that we talked
earlier.
about.
Yes.
Yes, but like you said, I remember you said that probably the government also looked through all these mechanisms. However, the challenge also now goes to those hard to reach areas.
Yes.
I remember, because the enumerators that are already doing this task is, they have been taught. They have been taken through a number of procedures to see how they really get the real information they're supposed to get. But the challenge is the people who are only employed for this timely period of time. It also goes back now to the language. Are these people, the people who registered to do this process, did they just come because they want money? Or they really came to give the service?
Are they locals like the requirement
Are they
was?
locals that, like the requirement says? So I think now the government also needs to go back. I think since we still have time, because today is day one,
Yes.
now we have 9 days to go. I think we need to also see, as journalists, we need to get back to the grassroots and cover stories and find out who was missed and why. If there is a loophole, we've seen government giving in some extension of days in case there are people that are not covered given the different government programs. So I think there is still room. Government has what it takes to ensure that all this is done. You remember when they were giving out, distributing food in COVID, they brought Uganda Prison Services, they brought the UPDF, there is a Uganda police to ensure they reach everywhere. So I think the government has the capacity.
Do you think they reached everywhere?
I think so.
Did you receive the beans?
I did, by the way.
And the posho?
I didn't that one.
Well, like you said, in as much as the intention is good, sometimes they may not be in position to reach every place. That's why at the end of the day, it will be an estimation. They will count a big number of people, and then we'll have an estimation of what the population will look like.
But I think it also gets back to you as a Ugandan. If you realize you're missed, can't you do a follow-up?
But they are supposed to come to your home.
Yes, they're supposed.
Like if you're staying in an estate and your estate is not visited, how are you going to follow up?
If they're going to find me at UBC and I'm counted from me, I'm not at home. So that means...
But you said you're double.
No,
so
I'm double. No, I'm double. But what I'm saying, those at home will be counted.
Yes.
But still, even here, if they come to me, I'll have to explain. For example, the issue of yellow fever that has been going on, vaccinating people, government has been putting these health workers in the different centers. Meaning, as you're walking, you find a stopover, say, hey, I wasn't vaccinated because of yellow fever. So I think also as a Ugandan, don't sit home and say, they told us they will come at the doorstep. Before they reach you, if you realize time is going, I think you also make a follow-up. We have LOCs. They have to ensure that their people are counted.
So you inquire from your LC
that is key.
Whether or not enumerators will be coming to your area, on why maybe you have not yet been counted. I think this is very important, yes. Jethro raises a pertinent point. Now, still on the views coming through, Kizito from Nebi says, according to me, though, they are counting me, but I don't see any good things in terms of development in my district. And he goes on to say, some of the questions asked are not good on privacy. The question of privacy is pertinent here. But like you have seen when we had the Minister for Finance and Economic Planning, Matia Kasaija, his information was not shared. His information was not shared. He was interviewed by the enumerators. His information was taken, but none of it was shared to us. And not because he's a minister, but because all of us as Ugandans, our information is going to be safeguarded. I know many people may not believe me, but that is the truth. All right, about now, we will be taking a short break, and we will be right back, so stick around, because Good Morning Uganda continues, and the conversation regarding the Census 2024 goes on.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Fellow countrymen and women, especially the Bazukuru, as we work towards realizing Uganda's Vision 2040, it is important that we plan based on accurate information about our people and our resources. I therefore would like to announce the 6th National Population and Housing Census that will start on the 10th of May 2024. The information from the National Population and Housing Census will support government, the private sector, cultural and religious institutions, civil society, and development partners in service delivery. It will also provide the basis for planning the provision of social services such as education, health, and transport, among many others, at the national and local levels. When data collectors or enumerators come to your home during the census, please avail yourselves and provide them with honest answers to their questions. This is in order to enable them to process the most accurate information about you, your household, institutions, and community. I therefore call upon all political, cultural, and religious leaders, private sector players, civil society, the media, and the institutions of the government to support this key national program. The successful execution of this census will influence the well-being of all Ugandans and progress the country towards the desired socio-economic transformation. I wish you all a successful census for God and my country.
Uganda plans to conduct the National Population and Housing Census 2024, a digital survey with a computer-assisted personal interviewing system from May 10th to May 19th, 2024. The census intends to collect accurate information on Uganda's population and housing characteristics, which will help in resource allocation, policy formulation, and development planning. Participants are encouraged to take part and provide accurate information to ensure the success of the census.
Government of Uganda, through the Uganda Bureau of Statistics (UBOS), is undertaking nationwide census mapping aimed at providing an up-to-date list of enumeration areas and administrative units in the country ahead of the National Population and Housing Census of 2023. The UBOS field teams will be using Global Positioning Systems (GPS) for mapping all administrative infrastructure, households and other facilities such as hotels, schools, hospitals and water sources to facilitate production of the updated LC1, parish, sub-county and district area maps showing all the physical features and social amenities. The census mapping will further aid development of a countrywide data for information systems as a pillar for effective implementation of the parish development model. This is to appeal to the entire government leadership, all stakeholders and the general public to support the field teams that will be deployed across the country. Announced by Dr. Chris Ndatira Muchiza, the Executive Director and Chief Statistician. For further clarifications, please contact the Office of the Executive Director on 0755 342 128.
Gavumenti ya Uganda neteekateeka kubara abantu boona omu ihanga omwaka ogu ogw'2024. Okubara kw'omwaka ogu nikwija kukozesa enkora eya tekinologiya kuruga 2010 mpaka 2019 okwezi ogu okwa kataano. Ekigendererwa ky'okubara n'okutunga okumanyisibwa okuhikire aha muhendo gw'abantu abari mu Uganda. Rero kiyambe gavumenti okutunga omuringo gw'okubaganisa entunguuka omu muringo oguhikire, kukora amateeka n'enteekateeka z'entunguuka ezikuyamba buri omwe. Abanya-Uganda mwena nimumanyisibwa okuhayo obwire bwanyu mubarwe kandi muhereze ababazi ebikubakwataho ebihikire.
Ekiro ekikeesa olwa 10 May kye bayita Census Night. Kiro kya nkizo nnyo, ebibuuzo byonna ebikwata ku kubala abantu n'ebintu byabwe mu ggwanga byonna lwe birambikibwa. Tukubiriza abantu mwenda okwetaba n'okujjumbira enteekateeka eno mu bujjuvu. Abakulembeze ab'ennono n'abeenzikiriza, mukubiriza abantu bammwe, abaana wamu n'abantu abakulu. Ffenna tuli baakubalibwa ku olwo. Wategedde n'abagenyi baffe baakubalibwa. It is Census time. Tell everyone around you. Census time. We'll start on that 10th of May. Tujumbire nnyo okubala abantu nga 10 May. Tusobozese gavumenti okuteekerateekera eggwanga. Kya mugaso nnyo okubalibwa. Obubaka buno bukutuusiddwako Uganda Bureau of Statistics, UBOS.
Nga Uganda yeetegekera okukola enteekateeka y'okunoonyereza ku bungi bw'abantu n'amayumba mu iwanga nkani census, enteekateeka eno ejja kukolebwa nga bakozesa ebyuma bikalimagezi nkani kompyuta okuva nga 10 okutuuka nga 19 omwezi ogw'okutaano omwaka guno. Kino kigendereirwamu okusobola okusoloza amawulire amatuufu ku bungi bw'abantu n'amayumba agali mu iwanga, era kijja kuyamba mu kutegekera iwanga okutaawa enkola ennungi n'okusobola okugabirira ebitundu eby'eiwanga. N'olw'ensonga eyo, Bannayuganda mwena musabibwa okwetabwa mu census eno nga muwa ababeedi okubabala obubaka obutuufu.
Fellow countrymen and women, especially the Bazukuru, as we work towards realizing Uganda's Vision 2040, it is important that we plan based on accurate information about our people and our resources. I therefore would like to announce the 6th National Population and Housing Census that will start on the 10th of May 2024. The information from the National Population and Housing Census will support government, the private sector, cultural and religious institutions, civil society, and development partners in service delivery. It will also provide the basis for planning the provision of social services such as education, health, and transport, among many others, at the national and local levels. When data collectors or enumerators come to your home during the census, please avail yourselves and provide them with honest answers to their questions. This is in order to enable them to process the most accurate information about you, your household, institutions, and community. I therefore call upon all political, cultural, and religious leaders, private sector players, civil society, the media, and the institutions of the government to support this key national program. The successful execution of this census will influence the well-being of all Ugandans and progress the country towards the desired socio-economic transformation. I wish you all a successful census for God and my country.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
You are watching Good Morning Uganda. Thank you so much if you started with us at 6:30 this morning. But if you've just joined us, thank you so much for connecting with us and being with us as Uganda kicks off a historical census 2024. Uganda is carrying out its first digital population census 2024, and it kick-started last night with the census night, and today is the first day, the official day, when people in Uganda are being counted. So ensure to stay home, because the government gazetted today as a national holiday, so that you may stay home, especially you in the corporate sector, so that you may be counted. Now we have a team that is in the field, and Jerome Paul Sonko will be bringing live to us interviews with different players in Uganda who will be giving us their views regarding the population and housing census, how they understand it, why it is important, or if they think it is not important. Also, you can tell us what you think regarding the same. Now, my name is Olive Monica Najuma, and in studio with me is Jethro. Good morning once again, Jethro. How are you?
Good morning, Olive. You see,
yes,
it is, at times it's very hard to believe when you tell people that we started from about 6:30.
Imagine that.
Up to now,
yes,
we are still moving. But of course, that also, you come to think of the time that probably you left your home, I left my home, to ensure that by 6:30 the show is starting.
Yes.
But we need to appreciate. I was looking at the statistics that is in America. Now, America has about 3 categories of census. So they have the decennial census that we call now the national census here in Uganda. Now they have the economic census. They also have the government census. I was wondering if we could as well develop, because remember, we copy at times, or we borrow a leaf from some of these states, countries. You realize that for them in their economic census, because that one usually runs for about 5 years, yes, and in those 5 years, that is when they usually as well sit, strictly look at the economic budgeting and the planning process when it comes to that. But also in their decennial census, that is when they also now look at accounting head-to-head each household in the different states. But we need to appreciate now what we have as Uganda. But of course, that doesn't deny us the fact that where we see something that can also work for us as a nation, we can also borrow an idea and see how we can move into that. Because remember, the national census being the overall and spearheading the entire system of planning, you realize that now government has to also sit and see how it can categorically spell out what to do, what, when, and where, to see that all Ugandans are covered in their different spheres.
I agree. And we've come a long way. The first national census to be carried out in Uganda, as I've been sharing. But if you've just joined us, a little background about the census is that Uganda's first census occurred in 1911 by the colonial administration, and at the time we were only 2.5 million people. Now the next one occurred in 1921 and 1931, still by the colonial government, and the taking of the scientific censuses started in 1948 and then in 1959, still by the colonial government. Now, if you're wondering, when did the independent government of Uganda start taking the census, this happened in 1969 and subsequently followed by 1980, 1991, 2002, 2014, and now the digital census of 2024 that you and I are lucky to be a part of. Now, earlier, Jethro, I was asking you if you remember ever being counted, and I said we would pin that. So now we are back. Do you remember ever being counted?
Yes, I remember, and I remember telling you that they used to ask a number of questions of how many do you stay at home, how many televisions do you have? I remember. Do you have bicycles? If you have, how many? But I wondered why they were asking all those questions. And I think now that takes back to one of the enumerators that John Paul Sonko was interviewing, the one who said that it depends, the questions are, you do not answer all the 180 questions. They pick a few depending on probably the state that you were in, because the first 5 or 10 questions, I think, clearly spell out who you are. And I think it is from that they realize that, no, this doesn't match you, this will match you. So there is one of the comments that you read that came onto our social media and on our WhatsApp. One of the Ugandans said that they're not seeing development, but there is something that we need to appreciate and agree. Olive, you and I know that there are things that we do for the future.
True.
There are things you do for tomorrow. Tomorrow, I mean Saturday.
Yes.
Planning for Saturday is not the way you will plan for Sunday. So one Ugandan who thinks that something is going to come out beneficial tomorrow, if you want to see results tomorrow, if you want to swallow an overdose simply because you want to get healed, I think that will not work out. I think patience is also key in all these things that we are doing to see how best we can benefit from the little that government is planning for us as a nation.
I agree. This report, when it comes out, it doesn't mean that the government is going to do things in a speedy manner, because that is your wish. It is a process. Yes, it's a gradual process. And I like how he put it by saying how you plan for tomorrow Saturday is not how you plan for Sunday. And I would like to add that how you plan for tomorrow Saturday is not the same way you plan for tomorrow 5 years. By that I mean, when you're asked what are your 5-year goals, and what are your long-term goals, they are different in most cases.
You see.
So, and the same applies to the census and the data and how the government is going to use with the data that it is collecting today to the 19th.
The police has a saying that goes in Uganda, anti polisi erina okukuuma omuntu n'ebibye. You get it? Now, there are sayings that usually come about, and these are sayings that Ugandans benchmark on to say, Chiwede. Bagambye. And to me, I came to realize that these are sayings that help us as individuals at times to do certain objectives, to reach certain objectives. Because if the role of the police is to maintain law and order, you realize we have a number of criminal cases, of course, that are going around in the country, different parts of the country. If the police is doing its role, I mean, they will not come to your house. Because Ugandans come out clearly and say, Mutuongere obukumi, I mean, add us more security. What do you mean by add us more security? Do you think each household will have a security personnel? So it is very hard. Why am I bringing this? There are things that are said by government, but in actual sense, it also gets back to you as an individual. What have you done before you demand from the government? It starts with you. One of the people that Sonko interviewed said he woke up in the morning, anonye chemisana. That is how he said it. I mean, he's strictly looking for something for lunch. President Museveni has always clearly said we should stop working for echida chonka. That is how he says it. So that means we still have Ugandans who are working for just the daily bread.
Majority of Ugandans, if you ask me, are living hand to mouth. And many of these are not even earning the equivalent of $1 a day.
Yes.
Okay? So when this gentleman said, I came so that I may get a chokulia, a chemsana can be actually loosely translated as something to eat. It could be dinner, it could be something for tomorrow, but they're daily income earners.
Yes.
And to them, staying home so that you wait for enumerators to come and count you may not really make sense, because a day not worked is a day not gained, and is a day where you can't predict tomorrow.
But if you're looking at transformation, Olive, when shall we transform from one stage to another?
I agree.
Because now this is where it takes us back to planning. If we are to plan for tomorrow, you're supposed to save the little that you earn. You might be earning about 10,000 shillings, that is per day. But how best can you squeeze that little? We talked of family planning. Don't think government will be there for you from A to Z. Yes? Let me give you a story about myself. I used to work in, there is an arcade called Giant Arcade. Do you know Giant Arcade around downtown?
No.
There is Giant Arcade. It deals in plastics. Now, I'm one of those young guys who used to work there, offloading trucks. Chicken drinkers from King Fahad building down to Giant Arcade. Now, time came, you have to make supplies. Now, I was given 20,000 per day. To be honest, that time I used to stay in Mukono. You understand? So I must fight for that taxi or coaster from the old park to Mukono. But tomorrow by 6, you must be in town, being ready to offload those plastics. You understand? So I'm looking at where we come from to where we are now. We are supposed to appreciate. If I am given 20,000 and at times not given, I'm probably given just transport to ensure you're home and you're back tomorrow. Now, that is the job that I had. You understand?
I hear
So
you.
at times, I believe we shouldn't really feel so sorry that for ourselves that we cannot sustain certain conditions. The issue is, how do you plan for yourself to ensure you have a better tomorrow? If the little that you have today, you're just spending it anyhowly, now that is where I think you're getting it wrong. So Ugandans need to revise their means, however little, however small, in whatever condition that you work in a given workplace. I think there is room for being better.
There is room for growth. Well, and now I will still share some of the views from our viewers, some of the comments from our viewers. And this is from Wanja in Mbale City. And he says, friends, census is very great as far as planning is to be considered. But Uganda has a cancer of corruption that even if they are doing something right or a right procedure to develop the country, like the minister said, that is the minister we're talking to earlier, the Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Matia Kasaija, he says that even if they're doing a right procedure, like the minister is saying, it may not be a surety, and the president even came out, until the president comes out and sanctions corruption, and it's on record that there is no problem as long as that there is a problem when you steal the resources or the funds that are intended for the services of Ugandans. I think the president has been on so many times on record. Actually, every national address he gives,
yes, corruption,
he will talk about corruption.
Yes.
Maybe what is lacking is enforcement on the people that squander or mismanage public resources.
No,
Maybe that's where the problem is.
That is the point. You see, the president is our father. Is our grandfather, as he usually states it. But at what point? You know, what hurts Ugandans usually is are the so-called the big fish. Now, if we still have high-ranking officials who are mismanaging funds and they are just left to walk free, now that is the worst image that our leaders are portraying to the young generation.
That's very true. You need to hold people accountable.
But that also takes us to the legal process now. If a high-ranking official is held accountable when it comes to mismanaging the taxpayers' money, I mean, something needs to be done very fast. But the process of handling a case, and it takes 4 or 5 years, you're still handling one case. Now, that is where Ugandans at times lose trust in the process.
I understand. But also still on the legal side of things, sometimes cases stay longer because of a backlog. We've heard the judiciary saying that we have backlogs of cases because probably we don't have enough magistrates or maybe enough judges. Actually, this week, the judiciary allowed the magistrate court to handle cases of 50 million and below, so that to deal with the backlog because they've not been handling such cases. So I think there is a move in the right direction. But I hear you when you say that more needs to be done, and we need to expeditiously charge people that squander government money. That's why last year, I will give it to the government, when we had the scandal of the Karamoja iron sheets. Ministers were taken to prison in as much as they later got bail, but it was the first of its kind in this country to see a sitting minister being remanded because of corruption. And if we continue like this, maybe that's the light at the end of the tunnel that Ugandans are asking for.
Yeah, but the question also, you see, what is failing us at times, Olive, is the people who are running the different government agencies, the different organizations, now also the different entities. Do we have people who are well versed with what they are supposed to do? That is also an issue, yes? Because we, the young men, if we have representation in parliament and we have young ministers, now that is a plus. So I think government has a few issues that it has to look at and probably revise to see how they can be streamlined to ensure that Ugandans continue to appreciate. Appreciation comes with what is usually put on table. What hurts Ugandans is the taxes that they give in. A lot of money is usually given to the government. In the little that they do to ensure that roads are worked on, the infrastructure, the health centers have all the equipment that is required, now the education system, to ensure that schools have whatever it takes. But it hurts so much, Olive, to give in, yet you do not get in return what you expect out of what you gave out. So these are some of the things that need to be outlined. But hopefully this national census is going to come out with good returns to ensure that that government really serves Ugandans to the best of the expectations.
Yeah, I agree. And I still have some more views. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Actually, many views are coming through, which means that you are paying attention. And there is a question here from a resident of Chebando, Chisalo zone. And he says, I would kindly like to know if the enumerators are allocated in every area, because I may be waiting home to be counted, but they may not reach my home the whole of the day, yet I have to go out to look for something to feed my family. Yes, the enumerators will reach you. What time? I cannot say what time, but one thing I know for sure is that they are going to reach your place of abode. So just wait, you're going to be counted. The counting is going on for the next 9 days. Today is day 1, and the census is continuing up to the 19th of May 2024. So you will be counted. But if you stayed home today, please continue staying at home. We need you at home. If you can stay at home over the weekend, please still stay at home so that you may be enumerated or counted as part of the census process. So we have had conversations regarding the census process that is taking place, the census undertaking 2024. The census occurs every 10 years. The last one occurred in Uganda in 2014. And around that time, it was estimated that we had about 36.4 million Ugandans in the country at the time. And as we speak, we are projected to be about 46 to 49 million people in Uganda. Now, the population of women surpasses that of men, and that was still the case in 2002 and was the case in 2014. So we wait to see if the population of women will still surpass that of men in 2024. And of course, we have seen that in 2002, the mortality rates went down, and they continued to go down as of 2014. As a matter of fact, the infant mortality rate went from 87 deaths per 1,000 live births to 53 deaths per 1,000 live births, as according to the status report of 2014. Now we are joined by Tony Kent Chaze from Magic FM, and he will be joining this conversation that I've been having with Jethro. Now, as Tony Kent prepares to speak to us, Jethro, the day is continuing. Some people are concerned that they have stayed home waiting to be counted. Do we have a clear picture of when enumerators are going to be in certain places? And also, by the way, is there a clear roadmap of the areas they're visiting on day 1, on day 2? Because I may be staying in Chira, and maybe the roadmap shows that they may be there on Tuesday. Do we have that picture, or we are just playing wait and see?
Well, I remember talking about the 60,800 villages that we have in Uganda, and of course 135 districts. You see, Olive, the roadmap should be there. That is why people have to be patient. And this clearly comes out when they say that we have about 10 days to use to ensure that everybody is captured. So patience pays, but it pains. That is why, you see, when during polls, the general elections, we see people saying the ballot papers came in a little late, we came here at 7, but they arrived at midday. We must accept that at times there are challenges. And given the fact that you cannot understand the time frame that you will spend at a given household, it is very important. So Ugandans have to be patient in this case to ensure that they give room for these enumerators to capture the real information. Because remember that we have stubborn Ugandans, by the way. We have stubborn Ugandans. It may not be smooth and easy as people might think, but these enumerators also have to understand that they may find a few difficult situations to capture this information. But that doesn't deny the fact that people will not be counted. It matters to be counted.
Yes, it matters to be counted, and all of us should endeavor to be counted. Now, we have been joined by Tony Kent Chaze from Magic 100 FM. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Olive. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
And as well, good morning to Jethro.
Good morning.
Well, me and him go, way back in time.
Okay.
And I'm sure he attests to that.
Okay.
And I want to believe that me and her will as well go
back in time.
No, go forth in time. Go forth in time.
And then forth in time, then you, at one point you'll be like me and Olive. Go back in time. Yes.
Yes.
Well, we are happy to have you here. And,
happy to be here.
Yes, and we have been having the conversation regarding the National Population and Housing Census. And of course, I'm sure that you're going to bring a different perspective to the conversations that we've been having. But before we even go any further, I saw you shaking your head vigorously when I asked Jethro if there is a roadmap on when and where the enumerators are going to be in certain areas. Is there a roadmap? Do you know if there is one, or we just have to sit and wait?
Wow, thank you. I was actually going to, jump on board answering that as you asked Jethro, but thank God you've actually passed it on to me. I really feel it's unfortunate how we've actually handled the census, more so for UBOS, Uganda Bureau of Statistics, and to a greater extent, we the persons in the communities. Why I'm saying so is there's been a lot of misinformation from the start, and as well there's a lot that changed at the last hour, that is the 11th hour. If you do definitely, or if you did follow so well the activities as well as the development surrounding the census exercise. We've been chatting with people in Banda, Zone 10, this morning, as late as 10 a.m. and they were saying they were yet to see no one, the English of the Americans, they were yet to see no one coming through to their vicinity or perhaps their localities for the exercise or, the census as we call it. Now, the interesting bit is that we all know there is a possibility the teams are going to be coming through, let's say if it is Village UBC, which is quite a big one from plot 27 to 29. They could have started at plot 27, and maybe their next plot that is within the households and vicinities they are reaching is 28 before they reach 29, because they are not going to be scattered abruptly. But still, in the way we know and how community works, because one of the questions in the questionnaire for the census has the aspect of how you learned about the census.
Yes.
Is it through social media? Is it radio? Is it TV, newspapers, or was it community radios, what we call mukalakasa, for some reason also? So people should have opted for that, the local communities, because when it comes to immunization, we've been hearing local leaders moving through with a boy, a girl, making sure abatuze mugende babageme olunaku lwa leero. The most recent one being
yellow fever.
the yellow fever immunization. Thank you very much. Now, how about the census? I, for one, have not been so much in my place of abode during the daytime, but at least that kind of deduction or maybe observation I've not made, or rather I've not heard about from the people that surround my locality. The locals did not get to be told that maybe Tuesday we are covering your area, Wednesday we are into this area, the census day, which is the commencement day, Friday, we shall be in this area. So that has, in some reason, for me, been a point of weakness. And whether or not there is a plan, sorry to fault UBOS, but the communication has not been the best of communications. And for that reason, if there is a plan and we do not know about it, as stakeholders, the media, it's definitely a problem. Otherwise, if there is a plan, I do believe they might as well have to communicate it between now and the 19th of May, so as to have that roll out and then help us out in aspects of we not being home, and yet there is a need for us to be enumerated as such.
Yeah, that's actually a pertinent issue, because if you have this national exercise and the people that you intend to count don't know when you're going to be in their areas, the difference between this and elections is that you have a polling center. You know that I will go to this center, to the police, to this area, to the hospital, and I will cast my vote. But now the message I've been hearing is stay home, we are coming. But when are you coming?
But interestingly, because the time I've had with the listening family of Magic 100 FM, which is a sister or maybe a brother. Well, that coinage is left to people that did literature.
Okay.
A sister or maybe a brother or just a son or a daughter to UBC as a network or an umbrella. We've been looking at the questionnaire in full. We had an opportunity to interact with the ED of UBOS yesterday. And one of the interesting highlights or perhaps reflections that came our way was the fact that even in my absence from home,
yes,
the person that is probably my spouse, that is a knowledgeable person, or in the case of people that are not home, the household head are the core people that should be answering questions.
Yes.
Now, there was an element of, in case I am not home, but I feel I am the rightful person to respond, I leave my phone number behind. And so when they reach that place, they can enumerate my family on phone, that is by calling me to give them the information they need, or make an appointment with me to be available at a certain date between this period from now till 19th. So that as well makes it a good one. But of course, in the aspect of waiting, we just have to wait. Now, had there been no news breaking yesterday in aspects of the changes, the communication was from the beginning, we shall keep our gates open, our homesteads accessible, because they would do a count in the night. Now, not until yesterday is when we learned that apparently it would not be a night count for the rest of us, but rather for the floating population.
Yes.
That means to say the transit people, the chibalas, people in clubs, the market vendors, and the street children. So somehow, somewhere.
And actually, Dr. Chris Variomons, Minister for ICT and National Guidance, yesterday said there will be no counting at night. So if there was counting probably for the floating people, realize that there was some miscommunication somehow, somewhere, when it comes to the perception on how people are receiving this information.
No, not even the perception on how people are receiving the information, but there was a question mark, or there were many question marks surrounding the communication we were receiving from UBOS.
Okay.
We as the media, then of course the communication we were disseminating to the public. Because it is the same UBOS that was coming back to explain and tell us, no, now this is changing. Now this is going to be like this. But allow me, Olive and Jethro.
Yes.
Kent,
yes.
Before I do that, Sonko is coming live to us from Mengo Market. He will be carrying out some interviews with some of the market vendors and of course the people that are shopping. Jerome Paul, how are things going so far?
Good morning to you, and once again I should say, and good morning to Kent and Jethro in studio there. What is happening here is that, again, you get to realize that in our observation we are seeing very few enumerators on ground, by the way, because as we've moved from the side of Chiseka Market, we then moved on to the Minister of Finance's residence. We've only been able to identify only a few of the enumerators, and the people that we are trying to look out for here, very few of them have been counted. And here I'm live from Mengo, and well, the weather is also getting a little bit cloudy, so we do expect some rainfall in the next few minutes. But in my observation, of course, as I was telling you, is that this population census is going on as planned by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. But in our further observation is that not so many people have been counted so far. So if we are to look through in Mengo, for example, you realize that not so many of those have been counted. And then as the exercise is slated for 10 days, it's not something that you can switch back to and try to say that many people have been counted. But of course, we are trying to get in contact with quite a number of Ugandans to understand whether they do know about the ongoing census and whether some of them were lucky to be counted yesterday. Because one of the border riders I've been able to interact with, who did not choose to go live on camera, did reveal to me that he was counted yesterday night. Remember, at midnight yesterday, that was around, I want to believe it's by midnight, which is today again. That was on 10th of May, because census night was 9th May. But by midnight, some of the people who are lucky to be counted are already moving on with their business. Now here in Mengo, the market is operating as usual because many of the people are actually going about with their business. and then it's just business as usual. Let me try to talk to a gentleman here to see whether he's sure of the population census, whether he knows about the population census, and then maybe if he will accept to participate and be counted. Sebo jebaliko. Kale, oli life ku UBC sawa zino. Tubadde tusababuzeeko ku balabi.
Wangi?
Oli life ku UBC sawa zino. Tubadde tusababuzeeko ku balabi abakulaba.
Balabi baffe tusanyusa obalaba. Mwebale gye mukola.
Amanya go?
Kawoya John.
Mwami Kawoya, olunaku olwaleero bali mu kubalaba na Uganda kuva nga May 10 paka nga 19. Bakubaze?
Bambaze ssebo.
Bakubaze ddi ekiro?
Misi ku makya.
Kumakya sawa nga meka?
2.
Bibuuzo nga bimeka gwe wojjukira ebibuuzo byabadde nga bimeka bye bakubuuzizza ba enumerator abazze okubuuza?
Abazze okubuuza. Nze ndagidde olagizi babaddewo waka ne bagamba babaddewo nga nze ndi mu kunaaba. Ne bagamba mu mbale ne bagwayo amannya gange ngenze sibafeesinzeeko. Ngenze okufuluma nga ate bagenze.
Exercise ebadde smooth. Kukwe mu ndaba eyo kitwalidde eddakiika nga mmeka okubabala?
Dakika zibadde nga 5. Zibadde nga 5. Esebo.
Abewaka bakuyambye omukyala abaana bonna?
N'abaana. Esebo.
Advice gy'osobola owa Munnayuganda alina gwe batannabala. Abamu batidde balowooza gavumenti erina bingi byebaagaza. Abamu batidde okuwa government information.
Okubala si kibi. Era bewe babale. Kirungi okubala abantu kubanga tutegeera abantu be balina mu nsi yaabwe. Kirungi okubala abantu.
Webale nnyo ssebo Mwami Kawoya. There you have it. Now, Kawoya is one of the few Ugandans, I should say. Why I'm using few is one of the few Ugandans I've got the chance to interact with this morning. He was counted at around 8 a.m., he says. And apparently, from his side of view, he has revealed that he was counted earlier at 8 a.m. He was showering and the people at home were able to actually work on such an issue. So you get to realize that the exercise is ongoing and the people in Mengo, we have enumerators that are going through. And of course, as I did mention earlier, participating in the census 10 years down the road, when you look at the population growth of Uganda in the past 10 years, with an approximate of around 46.5 million Ugandans that we currently have, you get to realize that maybe we are currently around 50 or 55. Now, why we should participate in the population census, my dear viewer, if I am to remind you, is to make sure that we give room for the government to plan better. You want better health services, you want better educational services. But again, we cannot plan for a figure we are not sure of. And if we are to plan to make sure that we know the people we are planning for, is 10 years gives us a projection. The birth rate, it does also give us a projection of how many Ugandans are not in the country, how many are being planned for, and then how many can we plan for today or tomorrow. So let me get into another business person who is already here on ground to do more business. Sebo jebaliko. Amanyago.
Manya Kakematia. Kakembo Matia.
Bakubaze okulwali.
Banakumbala.
Eyo inesubi nti bagenda kubalira wano bogenda kuddayo waka bakubale.
Semanyi wonna oba ku mulimu oba waka oba mu kkubo we bansangira wonna.
Olunaku luno olwaleero kuba gavumenti yabadde ludesigniza okuba public holiday. Mu nnyingiza ya business lulina engeri gye lukunyigirizaamu gye balunyigirizaamu oba bakasitoma basigadde bajja.
Semanyi naye nze kati bukyali bwakumakya simanya kumanya kitoovu naye nga nze manyi bakasoma bange bajjako ki.
Olunaku lwe baasemba okubala wali luddawa wali Mengo?
Nali mu kyalo waffe disikiti y'Emityana Bambala.
Webale nnyo. Now, you also, to remind you, in 2014, that's about 10 years back, when the last census that we held in Uganda, some of the people who are working here were not in Kampala at the moment. Of course, some others were in Kampala, but not many of them were doing the actual businesses they are doing today. So 10 years is simply, a huge time frame if you are to think of it. So that means as we move deeper into understanding how everything is working on or everything is moving, you realize that a 10-year projection to maybe hopefully 2034, when the government resumes with the population census, because 10 years is always the time frame there where we normally carry on with our census. But then to some of the Ugandans who have been counted, others have not yet been counted, but well, they are anticipating to be counted as we move on to talk to other gentlemen. Saba je baliko. Oli live ku UBC. Toyagala kugerako naffe. All right. Yes, Monica.
Other people to talk to and get their understanding of the census. You did mention that you have seen a few enumerators within the market. In your opinion, how many have you seen? Because the market population is quite large. And what's the number of enumerators vis-a-vis the people that are in the market?
Okay. No, just a simple correction. I've observed on our way to the market, not in the market.
Oh, okay.
So only a few, and I can only tell you there have only been about 4 to 5 enumerators that we've been able to see on our way to the market. Because with our observation in the market is many of the businesses are moving on as usual. Because if I would ask the person behind the camera to just give you just a view of what is happening here, is that they are only, everyone is actually on with their business. And you cannot easily see any enumerator coming along. So it's not like you will be able to observe any enumerator here. However much, I have to remind the viewer that the enumerators will be able to count you wherever you are. So as much as those who are working or those who have already opened up their businesses, you come to realize that according to the Uganda Bureau of Statistics' executive director, that is Dr. Chris Mokiza, he further revealed earlier this week that for those who are not home, the enumerators will fully find them where they are. Because yesterday, at the start of the census, at midnight, the 10th of May, some of the people who were counted were drivers, those who actually drive cargo vehicles. But however, some of the supervisors of the enumerators we've also been able to talk to, there has been a concern by some of the enumerators in regards to security, especially those who moved yesterday night. Because remember, those who were moving yesterday night were not able to count as many people. Now you can only imagine moving late in the night and you do not have a security personnel with you. So that has been one huge concern that we've been able to note for those who actually carried out the enumeration process or the accounting process in the night time. But here in Mengo, what you could easily see or what you could easily identify is we only have business moving on as usual. A typical Ugandan atmosphere or a typical Ugandan environment, as the weather also threatens to rain, but that is one you can easily observe here as well. But the enumeration does continue for those of you who are watching UBC, and we are definitely going to be giving you more details of the same. Unless otherwise, Monica, do you have any other question?
For now, but we will be getting back to you shortly.
All right, thank you very much.
Well, that is Joram Paul Sonko coming live to us from Mengo Market. Earlier on, he was in Chiseka, and later on, he went to the residence of the Minister for Finance and Economic Planning, Matia Kasaija, where we saw him being enumerated and even got a chance to have a conversation with the Honorable Minister. Now, in studio with me is Tony Kent Chaze from Magic 100 FM, and I've also been joined by Ivan Kahwa, a reporter here at Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. Now, Ivan, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Well, given that private media players are not really much involved in the census production or broadcasting, what would you say to Ugandans regarding UBC being there at the forefront, ensuring that they get first-hand information regarding the census?
Thank you so much. I think by mandate, UBC is supposed to do what it is doing.
Yes.
However, it is also good manners in terms of corporate social responsibility,
yes,
and noble cause for the nation, that private media houses have to support certain issues that are geared to enhancing the livelihoods and supporting the well-being of the nation. So if it is the case that private media houses have to be paid for each and everything, for example, immunization, issues like census, and quite many others, then probably there is a very big problem we are looking at. For me, I only think in terms of the news aspect, it is them who lose out in that regard, because the census is open space information. So by default, you'll find yourself giving it coverage. But now here is the challenge, that if they are deciding on what to cover, they may end up getting the bad nitty-gritties of the entire process, for which that is also bound to happen, and it is understandable. So to me entirely, I think they just need to up their game. There are many other avenues where government can actually give them money to do certain things. But when it comes to issues like census, they ought to have that Ubuntu, the patriotism that we are always looking at, to join other people for the noble cause. But for UBC, we are doing exactly what Ugandans are expecting from us as the state broadcaster.
Okay, interesting. I like the part where you said it is good manners to do corporate social responsibility. What would you say about that, Kent?
Probably I wouldn't differ much from Ivan, although maybe perhaps I would be complimentary or rather supplementary, adding a little. I did follow well the developments yesterday, where the National Association of Broadcasters came through to indicate their displeasure at government not allocating funds for, the programs and the publicity, the mobilizations of UBOS. In this, they were saying that there is always a budget, but why were they not given money or made consideration of for this kind of projection? And in fact, at one stage, I do remember, I won't mention, it's probably something we can look at a little later, but one of the media house bosses said, for the message of the president, we shall share. Because the message of the president was all about encouraging people to join in, to be positive towards this process, giving them the limelight of the goodness that comes out of it and the like. So they say, for the president's message, we shall share. But anything to do with now we are here, now we are doing this. In fact, that's the reason for which we are seeing minimal media coverage from the start, in as far as the time towards the commencement of the census exercise, which has eventually kicked off today, because they felt consideration was not made. Now, let me make a humble appeal to our bosses, government, because as a state media, apparently the people that run the state are the government. So our bosses, the government, considerations of allocations of funds in as far as the activities that are pro-government or maybe government programs need some funding always. Please think about it.
Well, the government has been saying and reiterating that this is something that concerns all of us. So probably they don't see a need to create a separate budget for themselves.
Let me just add this. Okay. We happen to be employees of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation.
Yes.
But interestingly, as employees, there is the other aspect of, look at these people that are owning media houses. They pay for being on air. They pay TVs on which they appear. They pay lots and lots of services. And so at the end of the day, they need a facilitation, a push. I am now playing devil's advocate for them, because truth be told, these are individuals. They've created work, they've created employment, and at the end of the day, they've helped government reduce on the burden of unemployment.
That's very
so how about we support them as well, and that is the best way to help them come together to push a national cause like this one to one end that government will say it was a success. Yes, even with the few that are on board with UBC spearheading, it will definitely be a success, but I believe it would have been a much greater success with all of us on board.
That's very true. And Ivan, your thoughts on that?
To supplement on his, for me, I think, you see, I think the problem was knowing of the fact that government had budgeted for the process. And these
326 billion.
And these people felt they should be a part of that cake. But let's look at the realities under the carpet.
Okay.
Or under the cake.
Whatever it is.
There is something under the cake.
You know,
okay.
For now, we are looking, covering the census, let alone the news, which is supposed to be covered. You're looking at sensitization.
Yes.
That even the person in the deepest village in this country will get the information on what time they are going to be counted, how they are going to be counted, and when and what is supposed to happen.
Yes.
Now, this is entirely sensitization. I would say it's public relations, an awareness campaign. Now, it depends. Awareness campaigns are totally different, and it depends on how you can deal with them. But for me, until I'm thinking, we shouldn't over-amplify it because of the census that happens after a decade.
Yes.
Is this the money that is going to clear all the areas and salaries for these entities?
No.
By the way, the other reality is people just don't know how much money government invests in private media houses to do much of the work that is supposed to be done by the national broadcaster. So for us, we move under the blanket of a mandate, yet by the way, even UBC has to be funded to do certain things.
That's
it
right.
should be considered priority. That's why even when the president came out to give a statement that all adverts must be channeled through UBC,
yes.
the same entities complained. I'm not against them. I understand they also have commitments and other things to do, and government is the biggest funder of private entities, and it's the biggest source of information.
So what I hear from what you're saying is that if the government is the biggest funder for private media, when once in a while the government comes and says, do this with us for free, you should do it.
It has to be an understanding. And even the people owning media houses need to know the dynamics at play. Are they coming for you to advertise a cause for government, or they are looking at the beneficiaries, who are the communities? Under that circumstance, would you, as a private media house, say, I am not going to run anything to do with census because I've not been paid? Is that the case? However, government has options. But for that amicable understanding, there are certain things that government will not say, because you have 11 radio stations across the country. Where doesn't UBC reach? You have 4 TV stations. Isn't that enough to do your sensitization campaign? It is part of many of the community radios in most of the upcountry areas. So technically, I think government is a little bit lenient. There are certain things they cannot say openly, but these are realities. I only urge private media houses to weigh onto the dynamics on how they have to operate. They don't have to squeeze government because we have seen the allocation of over 300 billion. You have to give us this kind of portion. I think that is not a spirit of togetherness.
Of Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. You put it right.
Ubuntu.
Yeah, Ubuntu.
Spirit for country.
Exactly.
And that's very important, especially in cases where it is really for the benefit of the nation.
Yeah.
The population census, population and housing census, is mainly for us, for the government to plan. But I've been having questions here from our viewers who are saying, okay, they counted us in Bududa. We've not seen any development, but the government is saying that these statistics are geared towards developing certain areas. How would you answer a person like that?
I think that's quite very important. You know, we have a sizable number of population that relates to different kinds of forms of development in the country. As development comes, there are those who will move with it. There are those who remain behind by these factors. Either they lack information on what to do, or they do not have access to specific services that can help them uplift their environment. I was discussing with Ron Kent in the morning. If you ask someone, how do they save their money? For example, deep in the village, where even the enumerator, him or herself, does not have a bank account, but they went through the training. Where the enumerator, him or herself, has not seen any bank upon traveling through. So technically, meaning
they don't even know how the banking system works.
Exactly. So if that question is charged towards that population, I deem it as uncharitable and irrelevant to enhance and uplift the life of that person. Now, if they tell you that they save the money under their beds, in terms of planning, what are you going to do? Are you going to extend bank services? Remember, banks are here to do business. A bank will do an analysis that I cannot put a branch where you have a population of about 200 people in that vicinity. It doesn't make economic sense for them. So technically, meaning if it is to look at development, I would expect for the censuses we've had, government should have had its own bank spread throughout all the sites, that even if you came to Ivan Kawa, I save with our bank. It is just close here. We have ATM outlets. But we have left certain entities to the private business or proprietors to run it, which locks a lot of people out. But to put sense into the entire thing, I think planning is necessary because it's approximately. You know, the last time we had, the population was about 40?
No, it was 36.4 million
But
people.
as we came to this, it had increased. Now we're talking of 48 kind of trillion.
Around
and
47,
technically
49.
meaning people do analyze, people die, people are born. So the information would be, do you lose more people in Uganda than those who are given birth to? So there are certain technicalities we need to look at. But lastly, what I want to inform Ugandans, we have the Uganda Communications Commission, you have NIRA, you have electronic systems in many of the government institutions. I think moving forward, when we are looking of information communication technology, to even enable the convenience of certain aspects. For example, I am now floating. I am not home.
Even
I am at work. Even
and
from
Kent,
here,
we are all of us here floating.
So we are technically floating.
Yes.
Now, it would have been easier for me to even feed in that information where I am right now, so that it is captured and you don't inconvenience me. Then you have seen where they are still using hard copies.
Hard copy.
To
And
feed in
yet,
information.
we have been told that this is the digital census. We know it as the first digital census in the country. And actually, speaking of the same, I had a question here earlier where I was wondering, okay, if we have tablets, because we know part of the reason why we didn't have a census last year was because the tablets had not yet come into the country. And now we say we have tablets, and I'm learning from you that in some places they have hard papers. And the question here goes, do we even have backup resources for these tablets? Or if an enumerator's tablet runs out of battery, their day is done, maybe and that area is complete?
The missing word in the equation was maybe partly digital. I hand you to Kent.
Okay, interesting. Well, Olive, just to incline a little towards the question you put to Ivan earlier, one core thing we should know is that with the 100 and the districts in Uganda, 140.
Over 140.
Okay, 100 plus districts. Chances are after this census, within a period of about 2-3 years, we might have more districts coming.
Oh, you've gone very far. We will have a few more districts before the 2026 elections.
Thank you. Now, as well, in the same regard, the population figures, once they grow, the way they grow, particular numbers of people in an area call for that place becoming a constituency or a parish or something of the sort. Those as well might be mushrooming soon. What does it mean? The leaders that, administer these places will also be needed. Members of parliament will be needed. You will need a hospital. You will need a school. You will need a market. You will need a public toilet. You will need public services around you. Offices have to be built. Security will have to be boosted. For example, if the ratio of policemen to civilians is about 800 currently in Uganda, it will now be probably a need for us to do more enrollment and recruitment of police officers, more recruitment of recruitments of army officers, more recruitment of civilians, the doctors, the nurses, the teachers, etc. Because the numbers are increasing, the classrooms are becoming bigger, and so we can't have just one teacher in maybe Master Watoro Patrick as the teacher therein, but we need probably teacher Kent, teacher Olive, teacher Godwin, teacher Ivan Kahwa, and others. So this is the whole bit of the entity that there is in this. Now, internet. As you talked about the whole aspect of the pads, that is the iPads, the tabs, and the computer systems they will be using for the data entry. How stable is our internet? Government rolled out much cheaper internet compared to private players, and we believe it's going to be that they are using. But how accessible is it in all parts of the country? We know there are hard to reach areas in this country, not only hard to reach physically, but as well in the cyber way. They are hard to reach, even for the telecom companies. Majority of the people watching us today perhaps those that have used the Kampala Road, Jinja Road route to Mbale to the eastern Uganda, realize that when you reach Mabira, the only internet or rather telecom company that you tap is probably UTEL. Why? Because UTEL had an interest in that forest, or rather that locality, and so for it, it reaches services to all parts of the country, you know, all parts that might feel secluded. But the other telecom companies that are private don't have services therein. Why? Because there is no one to serve in their view, and perhaps the market is not there for them to tap from. So the accessibility to internet, the connectivity, in my view, might be an issue. Well, if we can apply the technology that one of the traders was sharing about while he's meeting the president in Kololo, that you can feed the info into a system like for EFRIS or IFRIS, and after some period of time, when you go into an internet-rich place, the information then uploads automatically. That will also be a good one. It's more
like using Google Documents when you're offline,
yes.
and then when you're online, the information goes to wherever you want it to go.
Definitely.
Just a point of information, on the issue of internet access, what government has done, I've moved in quite many areas where private service providers are not willing to go under the circumstances we've explained, no business and something like that. Now what government has done is they are setting up masts that are owned by government, and they are interesting those service providers to come and tap onto those
which we call the digital migration.
Exactly. So you find that what lacks, these people don't want to invest a lot of infrastructure in a place where they don't do business. But now government is investing in the infrastructure to allow for these people to tap using that tower, mast, or whatever it is. So I think after some good time, probably the issue of internet
has the government already started erecting these masts?
Yeah, they have. When you go to areas of Fort Potro, Kasese, and some others, probably had to reach areas. At least they are doing some work there using UTEL. Is it UTEL?
UTEL.
Very broad.
All right. Now, at least that is light at the end of the tunnel, if you ask me.
But of course, it will take time.
Did you
because I was about to ask, is it going to therefore be available for the population census?
No, most definitely not. Now, I have a few views coming through from some of the people at home watching. And this one is Samuel from Bojiri, and he says, I have 2 homes. And I slept in house 2, where the housewife of that home is outside of Uganda. But remember, I have 2 homes, and in home 1, I have children, and in house 2, no children around. And his question is, will this wife too be counted, or I will be counted as a single person?
All those provisions are falling into the questionnaire. It's quite a big one with not even just 150 questions. They are 180. Thank you very much. They are close to 200. Now, when I just popped into this arrangement, I did make a highlight of if you're not in a home, the spouse will be the one to avail information. Now, if within that kind of arrangement, both you and the spouse, that is the head of the household, and the spouse are not available, the person that is very much informed about that household is okayed to give information about that household. So where there is someone that will still give the information, it will be okayed. But now in the scenario of I'm not in this home, I'm in the other home, and then chances are it might be double counted, UBOS or UBOS did affirm to us that double calculation would not be happening, or double tallying. How? Because if at all they gave information about Kent in home A, and they give the same information about Kent in home B, the system will detect automatically that this information has been doubled, so it merges it as one. That is what they told us.
So now there is the question of privacy, because actually yesterday I saw a headline where husbands or men were being advised to be open about the number of children they have, even if the children do not live in the same home as maybe, let's say, their official homesteads. So the question of privacy comes in here in the sense of if in house B, information about Kent is provided. But this information was also provided in House A. Is the enumerator going to tell the person in House B that, oh, we already have this information, or they are going to keep that private?
Wonderful. Before Ivan comes in, the information, okay, it's unfortunate that somehow it's miscommunicating. That is, I mean to say, the questionnaire miscommunicates what UBOS told us. UBOS told us that it would be coded information, and as such, no one would know that this is Mr. Patrick Ruatoro, and again, the same questions about Patrick Ruatoro. But apparently, on the questionnaire, I was hoping that I would do a quick print so that we can show it to the viewer in studio, but it's okay. We are still letting you know. The questionnaire actually has sections of surname, other names, name of child, name of this and this, age, NIN number, ABC. So at the end, if that is going to be the case, then it will be a problem. But put in mind the fact that each enumerator, if upright, as most Ugandans are known to be, took or did swear oath of secrecy or confidentiality. So you're not supposed to reveal my information no matter how much you've gotten a hold of it. But the question would be, how many of us as Ugandans have kept the upright tab, being the patriotic Ugandans that we prove to be, by doing right even when we take oath? Do we?
Wow, that's a deep question that I don't know if I can answer, because I do not want to misrepresent myself. But Ivan, can you represent yourself?
Double counting. Tony can talk of double counting. The Simanyali system will detect that so and so. That is presumably.
That is as per UBOS.
That's presumably if the information provided of the same person twice is the same. I may change the location, but I'm the same person.
Yes.
No tekayo Kasubi or no tekayo Matuga. But the names are the
but
same.
But everything else is the same.
Even the NIN number?
The NIN number is different, and that's where I was coming in terms of privacy. You see, people protect the national ID.
But Ivan, that's why it's actually the same, because the NIN will capture the most common of details as compared to date of birth.
Actually, the NIN is one of the best. And
the intersection.
The NIN is one of the best things to happen to us as Ugandans, because it captures our information. But some people may call it a curse.
This is the thing. Why do you think?
Ivan, just a moment. Yes. Olive, allow me. One of the prerequisites, which is not actually a prerequisite for the census exercise, is the fact that you don't need a national ID to be enumerated.
Yes,
now,
you don't need, they just ask if you have a national ID. Ivan, please go on with what you were saying. But it is a requirement.
You see, Tony Kent, ask yourself, when you go to seek a certain service and you don't have a physical national ID, but you have your NIN off-head, they won't give you the service. They need to photocopy it. So that shows you a very big problem we're having in this country. I suppose if I give you my NIN, I just read it, feed it to the system, then it will show Ivan Kawa, ABCD, everything. As simple as that. I am comfortable sharing my NIN with someone who is having a tab, because I know at the end of the day, after enumerating me, you're going to close, then you open Olives, then Kent. But put it on a physical document. What if this enumerator is a little bit, maybe having some interruptions, maybe the documents fall and something like that? So my NIN is about to be exposed.
I mean, it's not, I believe either of us here on this set has once, maybe in the past, right now, I don't know if you do it, but remember in the past, maybe at school, you buy cassava and they put it in a paper
I knew it had to
that
be
has that has information that was supposed to be private. Yeah.
So I think as they are doing all this, it doesn't mean other laws are silent. The laws to privacy, there is where people need to consent. It's quite very important. So to me, I believe for the person who says I am in home A, home B, home C, the most important issue, what government is saying, today is the day you're supposed to be at home. If you're not at home, provide the necessary information to whoever will remain at home. But when did you receive that document?
It was last evening.
As a journalist?
Yes, last evening.
The information disseminated
there were so
has
many
received
drafts. There were so many drafts of the same before the final draft.
So if the communicator received it as late as that, what time do you have to explain to the public in the shortest time possible to understand, because people are already moving. They are not aware of what information do I have to leave at home.
In terms of religious denominations, the Balokole had already complained because their bracket had not been captured.
Oh, I've seen flyers on people's statuses where they are saying if you are Mlokole, the number you're ticking is this number.
And for that case, it's the enumerator who ticks for you.
I don't know where they got that information. I found it on someone's status. Wow. Now you see the misinformation going around. People have a different picture of what is supposed to be happening, whereas something else is actually happening.
Though we try to put it right.
Yes, and that's why we are here. We are trying to put it right.
We are UBC. We are UBC.
We are here to inspire, educate, and inform. Of course, we do also entertain you on Fridays, but today being the first day of the population census of 2024, we saw it fit to have this conversation so that we can help guide you into this undertaking. And of course, I need to remind you, for some religious sects that have been convinced that the census undertaking is satanic, no, it is not. We are just counting you so that the government can ably plan for you. Government uses these statistics to know how to plan for Uganda as a country. So you should be counted. And of course, other government campaigns like vaccination, you should be part of these. I don't know where people get the perception that anything government does in mass numbers is wrong.
I think it's actually all based on the fact that government lacks people like myself and the two of you in its offices of communication. I'm not saying the ones that are there are bad, but they are few.
Okay.
In the ecosystem of government communications, people that are informing are in most cases not good at communicating. And at some stage, even the communication is either ending up as a threat than a positive. For example, I think COVID-19, people were told, if you don't do this, this will happen. National IDs. Yeah. We came to a point where people were told, if you don't have it, even when you get an accident, they will not take you to casualty. They'll first check whether you have it. And these were government spokespersons, you know? Okay, not spokespersons, but people speaking in the aspect of their accountable bearers of government offices. Yes. So it also gets back to, do we trust everyone that represents government? That is the other side. But then I wanted to ask the two of you, Oliver and Ivan, in a bit of the communication UBOS gave us, they said that those that are going to be working today, because by the way, for clarity's sake, people that are watching us believe or feel, some of them, that being a public holiday, we were meant to be home. It's a public holiday, but not an activity holiday. Activities continue. Well, UBOS said...
By activity holiday, what do you mean?
Activities don't get halted. They continue.
Activities like what?
We are working right now.
Okay.
Otherwise, we would have been on holiday and the cameras would be showing empty seats with whatever else they are.
Does that even ever happen?
That is why I'm saying it's not an activity holiday. Activities continue, but rather a public holiday. From the confines of... back then, activities used to be MDA activities, ministries, departments, and agency activities. And as such, the concerned ministries had to go to celebrate or commemorate. So they closed office, they closed book to celebrate. Now, these activities eventually graduated into involvement of the public, because after all, the MDAs celebrate in collaboration with the shareholders, stakeholders, the public. So eventually, public holidays, but not necessarily all offices being locked or closed. Now, I was saying, UBOS communicated and said that people that are at work, they cannot be at home, will be enumerated from workplaces. I want to ask, like I often do, have you seen an enumerator at UBC?
Well, I've been in studio since 6:30 in the morning, so I don't know if they're in a parking lot, but in the auditorium here at Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, I've not seen them. Have you seen any?
I'm informing you they are not in the parking lot.
They're not in the parking lot. Maybe later. We will be joined by the Public Relations Office, Uganda Bureau of Statistics, and probably he will be giving us an answer to that that question as he comes in. Maybe he will find them in the parking lot as he enters.
Or perhaps come with them.
Or perhaps come with them. But actually the conversation regarding the national population and housing census continues. And I'll share some more messages coming through. This one says, on the issue of census, it's good, of course, for proper planning, but government needs to put emphasis on investing in at least 5 major sectors, which include health, transport, clean water and sanitation, electricity, transmission, especially in rural areas, education and sports, for which sports, I suggest, should be a separate ministry to cater for sports and entertainment, hence looking at these as employment creating opportunities for the youth, among others. And he mentioned construction of regional stadiums, among others. And above all, supervision is key. The ways public servants conduct themselves on their jobs is really alarming. Talk about corruption, laxity, negligence, bureaucracy, etc. all hurt the common man who seek government services. This is from Kato Frederick in Chengera.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
But I agree with him on the point of
laxity.
No.
Having separate ministries.
Having a Ministry of Sports and Entertainment, looking at the opportunities therein to separate it from the education. I think that's a point.
I've actually
Everyone
always
can
wondered.
have an opinion on that, but I think it's a good point.
I've always wondered, and maybe Ruben, who is the sports, the sports guru, could answer this. I've always wondered why the sports part of it is under the Minister of Education. Now I understand we nurture talent from a young age, from education institutions, but like you, I agree that it should be separate.
That's true, because in school it was a component of PE. It would just be considered as something of leisure and something like that. Without focus, you just have to go there and do it. But if you start doing it at that level, nurturing the pupils to understand that actually I can make money out of sports and so forth, it's really a very good point. With the flaws the person is talking about, the issue of laxity, these are things that we interact with on a daily basis. And it all comes to the point that Tony Kent raised, missing certain people who are very versatile in certain key fields in government to do that work. But you'd already remember, we talk about the recruitment phase of government that ends up bringing that kind of people who give us those kind of services. But if it was more legit that Olive has been here, then government is like, this person can do this. But they'll have over 100,000 applications, so they ask you X, Y, Z, what is this? So when you fail, done.
Okay. Maybe to add on a little, I believe that the merger of our ministries is in correspondence to the closeness of what they offer. For example, gender, labor, social services. I'm imagining we have 3 ministries in that, but because they do more or less the same kind of work, they are merged. Education and sports, because sports is nurtured from the education, backgrounds and grassroots. They definitely match and move together. I mean, look at the one where Ivan is so much of an expert, the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs, UPDF, and the elements of the Army. Defense, Veteran Affairs. Veterans, the ones that are former.
Served.
Yes, and then defense, the entity that they served, and soon we'll see other young ones join in aspects of being veterans. So I don't want to believe, I'm not disagreeing with both of you, but I don't want to believe that for a ministry to be effective, it has to be independent. Because after all, if you look at the structures of our ministries, you look at, let's say, the ICT ministry that takes us.
Yes.
We have the head of the ministry. We have the minister of state, the one in charge of national guidance, the one in charge of ICT, the one that is information communication technology, and then the other
communication.
Which is just the plain communication. So at the end of the day, each head of a state entity within the ministry is actually heading that as it is. So somewhere, somehow, what we need perhaps is government prioritizing the priority of these entities we have, like sports, priorities, or rather prioritizing all those entities, the departments that are bringing in money that perhaps were seemingly not given a lot of attention before, to have that attention they need as of now. Because now the tally is going to help us know that By the way, we need to put money, sportsmen, because those categories are there. What do you do? Are you a sportsman? Are you this? How do you earn? I run to earn. How many meals do you eat in a day? Why? It is because I'm not this. These things are going to be captured, and then government, with its eagle eye, is now supposed to scrutinize.
And see where to put
where
what.
to put what, exactly.
Yeah. All right, I've been having this conversation with Kent and Ivan Kahwa. Ivan is a reporter at UBC, and Kent works with our sister or brother station. That
niece,
is
cousin, nephew.
Cousin, everything related. We are under the same basket. And we've been having a conversation regarding the National Population and Housing Census 2024 that has kick-started today and will go on up until 19th May 2024. Now, this conversation still continues, but we are going to be joined by the Public Relations Officer, Uganda Bureau of Statistics. So stick around, and thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Well, continue. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Fellow countrymen and women, especially the Bazukuru, as we work towards realizing Uganda's Vision 2040, it is important that we plan based on accurate information about our people and our resources. I therefore would like to announce the 6th National Population and Housing Census that will start on the 10th of May 2024. The information from the National Population and Housing Census will support government, the private sector, cultural and religious institutions, civil society, and development partners in service delivery. It will also provide the basis for planning the provision of social services such as education, health, and transport, among many others, at the national and local levels. When data collectors or enumerators come to your home during the census, please avail yourselves and provide them with honest answers to their questions. This is in order to enable them to process the most accurate information about you, your household, institutions, and community. I therefore call upon all political, cultural, and religious leaders, private sector players, civil society, the media, and the institutions of the government to support this key national program. The successful execution of this census will influence the well-being of all Ugandans and progress the country towards the desired socio-economic transformation. I wish you all a successful census for God and my country.
Uganda plans to conduct the National Population and Housing Census 2024, a digital survey with a computer-assisted personal interviewing system from May 10th to May 19th, 2024. The census intends to collect accurate information on Uganda's population and housing characteristics, which will help in resource allocation, policy formulation, and development planning. Participants are encouraged to take part and provide accurate information to ensure the success of the census.
Government of Uganda, through the Uganda Bureau of Statistics (UBOS), is undertaking nationwide census mapping aimed at providing an up-to-date list of enumeration areas and administrative units in the country ahead of the National Population and Housing Census of 2023. The UBOS field teams will be using Global Positioning Systems (GPS) for mapping all administrative infrastructure, households and other facilities such as hotels, schools, hospitals and water sources to facilitate production of the updated LC1, parish, sub-county and district area maps showing all the physical features and social amenities. The census mapping will further aid development of a countrywide data for information systems as a pillar for effective implementation of the parish development model. This is to appeal to the entire government leadership, all stakeholders and the general public to support the field teams that will be deployed across the country. Announced by Dr. Chris Ndatira Muchiza, the Executive Director and Chief Statistician. For further clarifications, please contact the Office of the Executive Director on 0755 342 128.
Gavumenti ya Uganda neteekateeka kubara abantu boona omu ihanga omwaka ogu ogw'2024. Okubara kw'omwaka ogu nikwija kukozesa enkora eya tekinologiya kuruga 2010 mpaka 2019 okwezi ogu okwa kataano. Ekigendererwa ky'okubara n'okutunga okumanyisibwa okuhikire aha muhendo gw'abantu abari mu Uganda, rero kiyambe gavumenti okutunga omuringo gw'okubaganisa entunguuka omu muringo oguhikire, kukora amateeka n'enteekateeka z'entunguuka ezikuyamba buri omwe. Abanya-Uganda mwena nimumanyisibwa okuhayo obwire bwanyu mubarwe kandi muhereze ababazi ebikubakwataho ebihikire.
Ekiro ekikeesa olwa 10 May kye bayita Census Night. Kiro kya nkizo nnyo, ebibuuzo byonna ebikwata ku kubala abantu n'ebintu byabwe mu ggwanga byonna lwe birambikibwa. Tukubiriza abantu mwenda okwetaba n'okujjumbira enteekateeka eno mu bujjuvu. Abakulembeze ab'ennono n'abeenzikiriza mukubiriza abantu bammwe, abaana wamu n'abantu abakulu. Ffenna tuli bakubalibwa ku olwo. Wategedde n'abagenyi baffe baakubalibwa. It is Census time. Tell everyone around you. Census time. Start on that 10th May. Tujumbire nnyo okubala abantu nga 10 May. Tusobozese gavumenti okuteekerateekera eggwanga. Kya mugaso nnyo okubalibwa. Obubaka buno bukutuusiddwako Uganda Bureau of Statistics UBOS.
nga Uganda yeetegekera okukola enteekateeka y'okunoonyereza ku bungi bw'abantu n'amayumba mu iwanga nkani census, enteekateeka eno ejja kukolebwa nga bakozesa ebyuma bikalimagezi nkani kompyuta okuva nga 10 okutuuka nga 19 omwezi ogw'okutaano omwaka guno. Kino kigendereirwamu okusobola okusoloza amawulire amatuufu ku bungi bw'abantu n'amayumba agali mu iwanga, era kijja kuyamba mu kutegekera iwanga okutaawa enkola ennungi n'okusobola okugabirira ebitundu eby'eiwanga. N'olw'ensonga eyo, Bannayuganda mwena mwena musabibwa okwetabwa mu census eno nga muwa abaabeeri okubabala obubaka obutuufu.
Fellow countrymen and women, especially the Bazukuru, as we work towards realizing Uganda's Vision 2040, it is important that we plan based on accurate information about our people and our resources. I therefore would like to announce the 6th National Population and Housing Census that will start on the 10th of May 2024. The information from the National Population and Housing Census will support government, the private sector, cultural and religious institutions, civil society, and development partners in service delivery. It will also provide the basis for planning the provision of social services such as education, health, and transport, among many others, at the national and local levels. When data collectors or enumerators come to your home during the census, please avail yourselves and provide them with honest answers to their questions. This is in order to enable them to process the most accurate information about you your household, institutions, and community. I therefore call upon all political, cultural, and religious leaders, private sector players, civil society, the media, and the institutions of the government to support this key national program. The successful execution of this census will influence the well-being of all Ugandans and progress the country towards the desired socio-economic transformation. I wish you all a successful census for God and my country.
The census undertaking started in 1911 here in Uganda, and after that the next one was in 1921, and later on in 1931, 1948, and of course 1959. Now the first census to be carried out by the independent government of Uganda, that is after independence, was in 1969, and later on in 1980, 1991, and 2002, and later on 2014, and currently today we have kicked off the 2024 National Population and Housing Census here in Uganda. Where were you in 2014 or in 2002? I remember where I was in 2002. I just joined secondary school, and in 2014 I was already actively working. So where were you? I believe that being counted matters. It matters to be counted. So let enumerators count you. Let them into your neighborhood or your estate or your gates when they come to count you, because this is the only way the government will know how many people are living within the borders of Uganda and be able to plan for the population of Uganda more effectively. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and you are watching an extension still of Good Morning Uganda. I'm not alone in studio. I'm with Nancy Anyango from the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. She's the Public Relations Officer at Uganda Bureau of Statistics. Now, I know there have been questions I couldn't answer as Olive because I'm a journalist working here at Uganda Broadcasting Corporation, but Nancy will be able to answer all the questions that you have been asking. Good morning, Nancy, and thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Uganda today.
Good morning, Oli. Thank you for having me. Thank you, BC, for giving us this opportunity as Uganda Bureau of Statistics. And before I say anything, allow me to congratulate the President of Uganda, because as the Bureau, we're really working on behalf of government. And I want to also congratulate my boss, Dr. Mukiza, for having allowed and put together a moment where Ugandans are witnessing for the first time that we are carrying out a digital census. So congratulations, and I know that eventually we're going to appreciate this process in its entirety.
Indeed, we will appreciate the process, especially after it is done and we are furnished with a census report 2024. Now, this is the fourth census This is the fourth census since the NRM government came into existence, but this is the 11th census Uganda has had since 1911. So we've come a long way, and if anyone has told you that government wants to do something with your information, they're lying, because those who were counted in 1911 when we were just 2.5 million people, I believe that that information was used to enable the government of that time, the colonial administration, planned for Uganda. But now we have a government by Ugandans for Ugandans. Now, Nancy, among the so many questions that I have received today is the question of Ugandans in the diaspora. There are questions of will they also be counted because they're Ugandans? Okay. So to a person there asking this question, how would you answer them?
Okay. Well, Olive, we have been telling Ugandans and people living in Uganda that if the 9th of May, the night of 9th of May, which was yesterday, the famous census night, We've been telling them that if it doesn't find you on the soils, on the boundaries of Uganda, then you will not add to the total population of people living in Uganda. So we shall not count them.
Okay.
Yes, we shall not count them. However, if we went to their homes, their households, in our household questionnaire, we have a question, and the question asks, is any of your relatives, a child, a husband, a wife, a brother, an uncle, is any of them living abroad? Because we also want to know what's the trend of Ugandans living
Abroad.
Uganda, and where are they going, and what are they doing there. So they will be recorded as a Ugandan living abroad, but they will not add to the total tally of the population.
Okay, so I am Olive. I traveled to Nairobi, and Census night, which was last night, found me in the borders of Kenya. But I've come back today, the 10th, and probably enumerators have come to my home on Monday, and I'm there. So will they not count me because on Census night I was in Nairobi?
No, they're not supposed to count you.
Okay,
Yeah,
they're not supposed to.
They are not supposed, and we train them for over a month. They've been training. We follow the UN standard of conducting censuses. These are not structures or systems or processes that we impose. These are the acceptable standards. So if you're not found, if you weren't here, Olive, yesterday by midnight, then you're not supposed to be added on to the total population.
Okay. Is there a question on the questionnaire which will ask if I left the country in a given number of days before census night?
Yes, there is a question. Like I said, there's a question to ask if there is anybody living abroad.
No.
Yes.
My question is in the sense of the enumerators have not yet come home.
Okay.
And now I've returned, but census night didn't find me at home. So when they come, do they have a question as regards to, have you been out of the country in the last, let's say, 30 days?
No.
There isn't.
No.
So there is no sure way of knowing that someone was not in the country on census night.
No, there is no sure way. We're basically just appealing to Ugandans, to their conscience, to be factual, to be honest, and give us the right information. If you weren't here on the 9th, the census night, which was from 10 to midnight, then just tell us you weren't here so that you do not add to the total population, because then it will give us wrong figures.
What if some people use that as an excuse to not be counted? Oh, okay, they said I should just tell them that I wasn't here on census night, because we know that a few sections of people are against the census, which actually also begs for the next question.
Yes.
Why are some people against being counted?
I think because they don't understand the times we live in. They don't appreciate the benefits of us conducting a census. If you were in Uganda during COVID,
yes,
I think I remember having a chat with the team from KCCA, and they said the information we had collected in 2014 is what they were relying on in 2020. Now, there's been a lot of change in the capital from 2014 to 2020. But they were relying on our information, one, to know how to effectively reach the masses, how to effectively communicate, to know where the population numbers, how many people are living, say, in Machindi, how many people are living within the central business district. So I think the person that doesn't want to appreciate does not know that we are living in the times of information and data, that there is nothing government can do now without relying on numbers, without relying on data. This information you see we are collecting is going to help government plan, okay? The government wants to know how many people are living in Uganda, how many schools does a particular district need, because the number of pupils has increased. Maybe now we need to construct a referral hospital in another district because the population has grown. So we are not just coming to get this information for the sake of it as an activity. This information is required by government to plan, to inform policy, and to also help government now monitor find out, evaluate if the programs they have implemented to help alleviate poverty, to help empower Ugandans, if those programs are actually working. So census is to our benefit as people living in Uganda. And so I would encourage anybody who still had doubt, who was pessimistic about it, to please accept and participate.
All right. Now, there has been conversations in the corridors regarding why certain media players did not involve themselves actively in the census undertaking. And of course, there have been questions about the budget that was released. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the number I have in my head is 326 billion Uganda shillings. And some people are wondering what this money has been used for, if other sectors are claiming that they have not been given facilitation to cover the census undertaking.
Okay, that's a great question. You know, when you hear 326 billion, it sounds like a huge figure.
Yes.
But for an undertaking like census, that is extremely enormous, with a lot of activity. That is actually not a lot of money. And Olive, as you know, this is our first digital census.
Yes.
We had to procure tablets, and we procured over 119,000 tablets. Over 119,000 tablets. We had to procure uniforms that the enumerators are wearing and the supervisors are wearing. We had to train people that are going to undertake this exercise. Why? Because we want a quality census. So I want to assure the nation that all that money was spent as it was supposed to be spent, because before cabinet releases money, you must have a plan. You must have a roadmap.
Yes.
And it's against your roadmap that they approve the amounts of money you're asking for. About the media houses that feel left out, well, you know, we abide by the guidelines of PPDA. We ran an advert and we called for media services. And we said, if you want to be a part of this exercise, then tender in your bid. And so for those that did, really, those are the media houses we are working with. Because we do not want tomorrow to be caught, you know, off guard, going against PPDA rules. You need to first be pre-qualified in order for you to be, in order for you to participate, to be involved, yes.
Okay. So on this day, the 10th of May, 2024, when we've kickstarted the first digital census in Uganda, you're telling us and the entire Uganda that the Auditor General will not at one time come out and say the money for the census was misused.
No.
No.
No, in fact, we'll be applauded.
Okay.
Yeah, as people that spent government money very well and put it to very good use.
Well, that's important to clarify, because with the wake of how people are alleging that government funds are being misused, it's important for the population to have a clear picture of how the funds that were released are being used or have been used. Now, the other question is that some people are claiming right now that in some of their districts, the enumerators have not yet come onto the ground. And this is a question that has been ongoing, where some people have been asking, I stayed home to be counted. What time or when are the enumerators coming to my place of abode? And here the question is there a roadmap? Has there been effort put into telling people that if you stay in Chikajo, Namasuba, or if you stay in Nakulabye, in Chiaye, or in Chiwunya, we are coming to your area on this day at this time?
I can assure you that at some point within the 10 days, every household will be counted.
But do the people know when the enumerators are going to go to them?
What we did as the Bureau is, after the shortlist came out, we empowered the districts to take charge, you know, of drawing up a roadmap of how they're going to enumerate. Okay? So I'm sure that if they went to their district headquarters, they might find that information. As the Bureau, we oversee the process. Okay. But the nitty-gritties are really with the districts, the town councils, the municipalities. But I just want to assure every household, everybody watching me, that you will be counted. So just stay put, just stay at home, we're coming.
All right. And now Moses Ogwang from Bali City says that the 180 questions seem very many, and he's asking, will there be enough time frame of in the 10 days for all these questions to be asked?
Okay. Well, yes, there are about 180 questions, Olive. But because this time, like I said, this is a historical census, we decided to have an inclusive census. So we are collecting information on various target groups. Okay. For the first time, we're actually we have 9 categories of people with disabilities. In the previous census, we had 3 categories. So our questionnaire is a bit expansive. But not all the questions will be for you to answer, will be valid to you. For instance, they might come and ask you, are you married? And then there are drop of questions under that. If you're married, you have, but if you're not married, you say no, then the enumerator moves on to another question. Are you with disability? If you're not with disability, then you say no, then the enumerator moves on to, so not every question should be answered by you. There will be questions that are relevant to you, and there will be questions that are not relevant to you. So in our pilot study, we found that one will take about 10 to 15 minutes answering the questionnaire, yes.
All right. And now Jonah from Arua is wondering why, when selecting enumerators that are going to do this undertaking, the only ones that were considered were those with A-level certificates. And he says that people with senior 4 certificates were also willing to work.
Well, I think our cutoff was S4. Why? Our main requirement was we wanted somebody that can apply themselves with a smartphone gadget. So I don't know where he's getting the idea that our cutoff was senior 6. We appreciate that this being a nationwide exercise, there are areas deep in the villages where we knew we might not find somebody with S6 qualifications.
Yes.
So our cutoff was senior 4. If you're able to apply yourself using a smartphone, if you're of stable mental mind, then you had to participate. So they applied, we created an online portal, they applied, and then we sent the short list to the various districts that they applied from.
Ah, okay. So probably there was some bit of misinformation there. So I'm having a conversation regarding the National Population and Housing Census 2024 with Nancy Anyango, who is the Public Relations Officer, Uganda Bureau of Statistics. Uganda Bureau of Statistics is the overseer of the census undertaking 2024. That's why we are having these questions to them. So you can join the conversation by sending your message to 0709 602592. That number is on WhatsApp, but you can also send a direct message. Send your views. Tell us what you understand or how you understand the census undertaking, but also send your questions. Nancy will be in position to answer some of those. Now, I have a question or a view coming in from Fahad, and he says he disagrees with the 10 years period, and he says it's so long. The fact being that the national population census is majorly aimed at improving our welfare and well-being as Ugandans, because problems are day to day. So 10 years is a stretch. So I think his contention here is that the census takes place in intervals of 10 years. Yes.
Well, that's, like I said, Olive, we follow the UN standard of collecting statistics.
Yes.
And if you're to conduct a census world over, the exercise is conducted every 10 years. However, at the Bureau, we have other smaller censuses and surveys that we conduct. that helps inform government on where we as a country at maybe say every after 2 years, like we have a health survey, we have a multi-index poverty survey, we have surveys on agriculture. So we have other surveys that help paint a picture of where we are as we wait for this big one that happens every after 10 years.
Okay.
And that's why it's important that Fahad, is he Fahad?
Yes.
That Fahad, you participate, you give us correct information, because you know that for 10 years, yes, we shall have the small censuses and the surveys, but government will mainly rely on the information we collect from this main census.
From this main census.
Yes.
And that also, and correct me if I'm wrong, does that also contribute to the readiness for elections? Now, for instance, we have the 2026 elections coming up, and does the Electoral Commission use some of the information and data that you collect in the census to prepare for the next election?
Yeah, I think our population numbers are what they use, are what they get from us to help them plan. You know, maybe if an area has grown to a population of now qualifying for a new polling station, maybe if there was only one, then that informs them to maybe create a second one. So I know that they're also waiting for the population numbers, for them to help them, to facilitate them plan better for the upcoming elections.
Okay, that puts things into perspective. Yes. Now, we have been asked to stay home and be counted, especially today. And for those that can be able to spend the weekend at home, to also stay home so that they are counted. Now, someone here is asking, if I do not get enumerators at my house, what do I do?
If they don't get the enumerators today?
Yes. Or I think any day between now and the 19th. If let's say some people are already working, I am here. So if I go home and the enumerators have already done their work, what do I do?
Or if they already combed your area and you weren't there. Like I said, we've trained our enumerators, and they're in the company of the LC1 chairpersons of those enumeration areas. If they come and you're not there, first of all, you will not see any writing on your house. They have a piece of chalk that once you're enumerated, they will write on your house. But if you're not there and there is nobody in your house that can attend to these enumerators, then between the 10th and the 19th, they'll come back. Now, if they fail to get you, and it's towards the end of the exercise, then it will be upon the LC1 chairperson to get that respondent's number. We call them, and they set up an appointment with them to ensure that by the time the enumerator is coming back for that maybe second or third time, they're at home.
Okay.
Yes.
And someone says, if government makes population census, so to help, can it help the people on the bottom, because people need help from the government? I think it's the same question that Nancy answered earlier, and which we've been answering since we started the show, that the census is mainly to plan for you as Ugandans. And the planning, this help may not come to them. It may not come to them like, you give me money right now, because one of the respondents we talked to expected to be given some amount of money. But in my understanding, and you can add to that or clarify, it is to plan for the country in terms of services that are given to the people.
Even in terms of programs. For instance, how do you think PDM came about? The government looked at the numbers. The government realized that Ugandans have a lot of creative ideas, innovative ideas, but they needed capital. So some of these programs that government initiates, comes up with, are based on numbers. They pick out, for instance, from exercises like this census, to inform them to know that, because we have a household questionnaire, and it seems intrusive, but we are trying to also establish the poverty numbers. Where are Ugandans at? You know, is there a true socio-economic transformation that's happening? Tangible economic transformation that is happening. So the government will look at these numbers and they realize that some of the programs we started to elevate and to empower Ugandans are either working, and if they are working, then we need to boost them even further, or they are not working, they need to be revised, and then that will happen. So at the end of the day, yes, it will help government plan, but that planning will now begin to affect your pocket. Because also say, if through planning a road is constructed and you're a farmer,
your produce will get
yes,
to the market
easily.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. If you're a hospital and if say you're a hospital that was overwhelmed, in 2014 you had fewer people, but now you're overwhelmed by population growth, and so the drugs are no longer enough to serve the population. And then government realizes we need to put out another health center in this particular area. So now you'll have
or increase the budget for this hospital.
Yes, increase the budget for that hospital also. So you will begin to appreciate these benefits. And that's why we're saying participation in this exercise is for everyone's benefit.
Well, I have been having this conversation with Nancy Anyango from the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. She's the Public Relations Officer, and she was clarifying and answering some of your questions regarding the National Population and Housing Census, which has kicked off today, the 10th of May 2024, and is going to continue up until the 19th of May 2024. Be sure to be counted. It matters to be counted. And thank you so much for sticking with us from 6:30 in the morning up until this minute. Uganda is having a historical census that you need to be a part of. You should give proper and correct information. And please do not listen to the people that are asking you not to be counted. Thank you, Nancy, for being here.
Thank you for having me, Olive.
Well, this is from us. We are saying goodbye. Have a nice weekend. And of course, we will be having further programming regarding the census. So stick around for further information. My name is Olive. Adios.
Fellow countrymen and women, especially the Bazukuru, as we work towards realizing Uganda's Vision 2040, it is important that we plan based on accurate information about our people and our resources. I therefore would like to announce the 6th National Population and Housing Census that will start on the 10th of May 2024. The information from the National Population and Housing Census will support government, the private sector, cultural and religious institutions, civil society, and development partners in service delivery.